Welcome one and all to the main event after show. I don't know what to call this. This is sort of an anomaly. This isn't the Schmoeville after show. This isn't the Schmoedown Rundown. It's something. You'll figure it out once you see the title of this podcast. My name is Ryan Snelling. Thank you so much for joining us. On deck with me is the host of the Schmoedown Rundown, Aaron Turner. What up, my man?
What's happening out there, Schmoeville? What's going on? Let's talk some Schmoedown Spectacular. I'm ready.
This is the first time me and you have podcasted together, so I'm excited. I'm sort of dipping into your territory, recapping Schmoedown. I'm definitely excited to be here with you. In the hole is my co-host on the Schmoeville After Show, Brian Davids. What up?
I believe in Christmas miracles, especially since Ashley Mova finally pronounced Gal Gadot's name correctly this week.
No. Don't go there already, okay? This is Schmoedown Spectacular talk. Can we go the rest of the podcast without bringing up Godot?
That's why I said it was a Christmas miracle.
Oh boy.
Okay. Well, bad jokes aside, we also have, welcome back to the Schmoeville After Show, the co-host of the Schmoedown Rundown, Mr. Paul Wolf. What up?
Hey, what's going on, guys? And Brian, I got that joke. The pun was very good. I will give you one of those for you.
I will explain the pun later. There's more where that came from.
That's what I was waiting for, the sound of that bell to ring. Yes, guys, we are here to talk about the Schmoedown Spectacular. I'm excited to be here with you guys. It's just going to be us talking about sports, or in this case, the Spectacular. This was a great Christmas present from Kristian, Harloff, Mark Ellis, and all the gang over at Collider Video. Let me just say thank you so much for giving us great content. I feel like that's something I should say, given the fact that it's the end of the year, and we just finished watching this huge main event. Are you guys ready to just dive right into it and talk about all of these matches on the Spectacular?
Well,
Absolutely.
real quick, I feel bad that we didn't have to pay for this. This felt like something that demanded my $69.95, and yet it was all free.
Couldn't agree more.
But I
feel
had
guilty.
to pay
I feel like
Kristian
we should
like
have paid
$70.
Oh, you paid Kristian. Okay. You paid him for all four of us.
He told me to give him $70 to watch it.
That makes sense.
So
Okay,
yeah,
sure.
I might need to DM him after this. Anyway, so let's jump right into it. Let's talk about the inner geekdom match between, we had Robert Meyer Burnett. These are the people that we knew going in. We had Robert Meyer Burnett, Jeremy Johns, Hector Navarro, Ashley V. Robinson, and then the mystery guest ended up being John Campea. So
AKA not Kevin Smith.
Yeah, was that a thing? Was that what people were saying in Schmoeville?
Yeah, that was the
group?
leading vote getter in the poll that they were trying to guess who the mystery opponent was. And yeah, Kevin Smith was far and above their number one pick.
Kevin Smith is the poll winner for any mystery guest / guest that people want to see. No matter what it is, people are always beating the Kevin Smith drum.
You got me there.
I don't
Absolutely.
think I've ever voted for him there.
And I gotta say, Campea was not my horse for this mystery guest.
I doubt it was
was
anybody's.
honestly leaning. I was leaning to. Yeah, you're probably right. I was leaning towards. Personally, I was leaning towards two people: Matt Key, for the reason of he and Ken Knapsack, and just his association with those guys. So I was
Former writing partner.
Exactly. I was thinking it could have been Matt Key, and I was super hyped on the Andre Black nerd train. I was like, it's got to be him if it's not Matt Key, but wrong on both counts.
I thought that it was definitely going to be Mark Andreyko because he absolutely showed up in his match, but he was nowhere to be found. And this is a seat that he would have fit in perfectly. Andreyko was my number one, and even though I was happy to see John competing because we hadn't seen him in forever, I still think, looking back,
Tuesday.
I would have. Yeah. Well, Tuesday. You know what I mean. Before Tuesday, okay?
Being a jerk. Because I'm a jerk.
I definitely thought it was going to be Andreyko, and part of me still wishes that we got to see him, but anyway, yeah, John came out in his Canadian fashion as well, And
it makes sense, though, because John likes to make a spectacle out of his returns or comebacks, etc. So it doesn't catch me by surprise.
So you're saying he participated because for the attention? Is that what you're saying?
No, the fact that it was a mystery guest makes sense given what Campea has done in the past with his returns and announcements and trying to build things up with some mystery. So it makes sense in hindsight.
Aaron, I will go to you first. What were your first impressions of this entire match? How did you feel about it?
Well, to be 100% honest with you, Ashley V. Robinson was very surprising to me. She came out, she got the first 6 right. So she was on a roll, and I was thinking, all right, Ashley's going to turn this around because of her, let's just call it a not great match with Mike Kalinowski. Let's just leave it at that. She impressed me. I was very impressed. It was a shame that she went out first. I honestly didn't see that coming.
Who was your pick going in? Sorry to interrupt.
My pick was Robert Meyer Burnett, and as the gold standard would have it, he won the whole damn thing. So, I mean, I'm just saying, he's my guy. But, yeah.
See, I was all over Navarro. Navarro was my guy from the start,
same.
And it felt like a great pick for 90% of the match.
Am I the only one that didn't really understand where Jeremy... Like, it said Jeremy John's strength was Star Wars. Has that ever been a thing? Like, I know he's been on Jedi Council, but since when was that a strength of his? I never knew that about him.
If I may, that's actually one of the things I'm noticing as a nitpick, that when they bring up the graphic of each player, they say their strengths out loud, they never match up. They very rarely match up. So I saw something different than what they said out loud. So I know he's got more strengths than just Star Wars, but they just highlighted Star Wars.
Yeah, Kristian has told me that he gives the graphic designer, which is probably Ray, but he gives that person their strengths and weaknesses, and then he actually just makes them up as he's calling them out. So that's why they're so wildly inconsistent. But yeah, I never knew that Jeremy was that knowledgeable in Star Wars. Again, I know he's been on Jedi Council, but I just didn't put 2 and 2 together. But
well, he's big into video games. I mean, he wears his childhood bedsheet around his neck anytime he does a Star Wars review. So it's there if you look hard enough on his channel. But real quick about Ashley, I was DMing Kristian as I was watching this. You know, it's no secret, we can say this, that we got early access to this. And Kristian specifically said, I want you to DM me your reactions as you watch it. And I was really impressed with Ashley. And I said, wow, she's really turning the corner. I mean, she hadn't missed a question yet. And as soon as I pointed that out, she didn't get a question right the rest of the time. So you guys can blame me for jinxing her.
Good Lord.
Damn you, Brian. The thing that blew my mind about your boy Robert Meyer Burnett, Aaron, was that, yes, despite winning the entire match, I thought he missed 2 of the easiest questions in the entire thing. The guy who praises Kevin Feige, the guy who loves the MCU,
our Lord and Savior.
Yes, our Lord and Savior. He did not know that Dave Bautista played Drax, which I think he's already addressed that in the Facebook group. Right before we recorded, I think I saw him address that and apologize for that. But he also couldn't recall Scott Lang as Ant-Man.
If I may. He did, however, say a wrestler, so I guess that's kind of close to Batista. It's not like Drax was, John Cena or Hulk Hogan or like an instantly recognizable WWE superstar. So I'll give him a pass on that particular one. But yeah, Scott Lang as Ant-Man, yeah, I can't give him a pass on that one. That was a bad miss.
I'll give you the reason why he won. It's very simple. I'll give you the reason real quick, and then we'll go to Paul. He got more questions when it counted in his wheelhouse, such as old school Star Trek, old school Superman. Those were things that he knew inside and out, and Navarro, as good as he is, just couldn't get those as quickly as Robert. And again, the frequency, there were more of those questions when it counted, and that's how he was able to take this win. Paul?
I was going to point out that not only did Robert Meyer Burnett not get that with Dave Bautista, but Campea didn't either. Way back in the AMC days, he had interviewed him, Dave Bautista even said he was a fan of the show, and they even helped out with the fundraiser for the it was, I believe, the Philippines. And so that was shocking that he didn't get it either, which to me was baffling.
I hate to actually you, but he pretended like he didn't get it, but he actually wrote his name on his board. So what he said differed from what he wrote on his board, because I went back and I rewatched that moment because it was awfully strange. But I think he was joking that he didn't know who it was, but he actually did write Dave.
Understood. He fooled me.
There you go.
He fooled me then. I didn't read the board, I guess.
Brian, I don't think I asked you, though. What were your initial reactions to this match?
Well, again, I picked Navarro, and I felt so good about that pick. I mean, he was crushing the majority of this match, and I figured it would come down to Navarro and Robert. But like I said, there just seemed to be more old-school questions pertaining to Star Trek and old-school Superman, and Robert just is able to recall those quicker. That just seems like something that he probably grew up on. That was kind of his heyday. That was kind of his prime. And Navarro is so well-rounded, though. He probably knew some of those, too. But in terms of quickness, I see why Robert won.
Yeah, I want to get to the last question with Robert here in just a second. But we saw our girl Sasha, by the way.
Thank God.
Yeah, and because I think, Brian, I got a tweet. I don't know if you were in it, too, but I got a tweet that people were worried that Sasha was gone forever. Guys, that is not the case. It's just not. So don't bother worrying about that again. But
because of TV talk?
Right. But not only did Sasha come out to help out with the Spectacular, Josh McCouga was not in attendance, so she brought out the wheel. She did all that extra stuff that we needed her to do. But
they could have invited Emma, and yet they had Sasha do it. So I like that they brought back their all-star team for this episode. They had their best female co-host on for this episode, so I really appreciate that.
I want to talk about the use of the buzzers for a second, and I'm going to go to you, Aaron, because I know that you're actually passionate about this topic. That's what Sasha did for this match, in addition to bringing out the wheel, was
she was the
judge the buzzers. Aaron Turner, what do you think about this?
I am very passionate about the buzzers. You are correct. I don't know where they got those buzzers, but I don't know if it's because they're close to the microphone or not, but you can't hear them. And then when they hit the button, they don't work right away. So there's kind of a delay there. So I don't really like that. I'm not sure if they would go to traditional just bells like Paul does the ding. I don't know if they would consider going to that, or if if the optics aren't good. But I mean, honestly, and I hate to do this, but like, this is so nitpicky, but I don't like the marker boards. I don't like people writing on marker boards.
It's hard to see.
It doesn't look right to me. I mean, yeah, it's hard to see. It doesn't look right to me. I don't know if we can get like an iPad or something, some kind of program like that. They got to have some iPads laying around or something like that. But I mean, that's just me nitpicking. So I mean, I don't know if you thought about that too.
Well, someday we'll have the technology to where when someone presses their buzzer or whatever it is, it'll light up automatically on the screen that we see, like it's Jeopardy, or just something on the screen that is synced up with what they press. So we don't have that technology right now, but someday we will. But yeah, for now it is kind of frustrating. But that's one of the cool things, though, about watching this league evolve and grow, is that when you look back at some of the clip footage from 9-8 months ago, it's crazy to see how far we've come in just 9 months in terms of the quality of the show and the features that it has.
Good point.
Paul, do you have any tools or bells that you can donate to the Collider studio?
Yes, the bells and whistles, my area of expertise. Now, it's interesting. There is kind of technology that we have that could be used in this area, and I completely concur with everybody. The fact that sometimes you even heard it, like Robert Byron Burnett was hitting it, and they were just trying to hit it hard, and it was not working, or it was going to be broken, or it did break, or I don't know. But what they have actually in stores, they could use it for this, is those click lights that you can like stick in a closet. Like you actually push them, the light comes on and comes on. So they could use that almost like a Simon Says type of thing, where if you can actually like push it and the light comes on. So if they click it, the light can come on. You could actually see it and there's no audio, but it's just obviously it's just a visual that could be picked up on quicker. And not only can the judge see it better, but the people watching could also see it a lot better too. And in regards to using the iPad, I've seen this happen before too, is if you use an iPad, filming it on screen unless they have some technology there that there wouldn't be a glare, or there wouldn't be it wouldn't be pixelated, it would probably be hard to pick up. I've seen that happen a few times. If a camera is filming a TV or something, it's not as visible as it would be in like real time. So that's the only other option I can think of for correcting that, is that little click light that you would put into like a closet if the closet didn't have a light per se, for something that could improve the buzzer system that they have now.
What I was going to suggest, and this sounds super nerdy, back in the day in elementary school when I was doing quick recall on academic team, we had those buzzers, and they're all, I don't know, they all go into a machine and then they light up depending on which buzzer clicked in. So I don't know how accessible that is. I don't know if that even still exists. I'm sure it does, but that's also an option. Anyway, that's again, nitpicking a little bit, but overall, I want to talk about just the Fatal 5-Way in general. Like, when I was thinking about, out of the 5 matches that we saw, I really, really enjoyed this, just basically because it was unique to everything that we had seen this whole year on Collider. I mean, it was the first time that they had done something like this, and this
was the Star Wars match, essentially. So I think they did the Star Wars episode first, and that went so well that they took the format and applied it to this. Again, they could have recorded this first and then the Star Wars after, but I feel like the success of one of these matches inspired either the Star Wars or inspired this tournament, because like you said, this was extremely exciting. It was entertaining every which way, and I would love to see more of this format.
Yeah, I asked Kristian yesterday when they recorded the Schmoedown Spectacular, and he said today. So, so I got nothing out of him. But you know what? This match ended again in sudden death. I love the idea that Robert Meyer Burnett won on a question pertaining to Superman Returns, given the fact that he worked on the damn film. Like that, did you guys pick up on that? Did you all know that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you could tell the second that they said Superman Returns, you kind of saw his brow light up, and he was ready. He was James Marsden. The most confident he'd been in an answer that entire match was at that moment. So yeah, it was a pretty cool moment for him.
I mean, that's what I've been saying. I mean, he got his wheelhouse questions right when he needed it. Either guy could have won. He just happened to get something directly in his wheelhouse. And I wouldn't be surprised if Navarro could have answered the same questions. He probably could have. But again, this was meant to be in Robert's wheelhouse, literally in his wheelhouse.
Can I actually just jump back on a point real quick? I don't mean to cut you off there.
Absolutely.
But what I really like, and it was in the Star Wars match too, is the new style, sudden death, where it's one, you buzz in, you answer the question, and then you get another follow-up question to win. You don't just win automatically. I feel like that gives an equal chance to whoever. It's not you can't win on a fluke. You have to.
Well, they did it in this match too. They did a qualifying question first, and then Robert got his question to win it.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I like that much better than just like the JTE and Ellis match where Ellis just buzzed in and got it real quick.
I see what you're saying. Excuse me, but do you think that one of these matches inspired the other? So perhaps the Star Wars match came first, and then they said, "Well, we got to do this for the Inner Geekdom tourney," or they recorded this tournament first, and that inspired the Star Wars match. Because I was totally surprised that they changed the format for the Star Wars match from what they usually do. So one of these had to influence the other, is what I keep saying.
Absolutely. I mean, if you really think about it, I mean, it's almost like an amalgamation of everything that they've done from the very beginning. I mean, they used the whiteboards, they used the betting. They kind of put it all together into one with the buzzing, and so it's just like the evolution of it all. So I do feel that if it was the fact the Star Wars match was first, that had to have had some influence on this Inner Geekdom Championship match as well, because it's almost like this Inner Geekdom Championship is all of the past Schmoedowns, all the formats into one, and they just kind of put it all in, and it worked beautifully, obviously except some of the minor details, but it flowed well. It was entertaining, and I mean everything was balanced from the questions and the topics, and it was quite impressive across the board.
This might be a really stupid question, but was this anybody's favorite match from the Spectacular?
That's actually a really good question. Me personally, I'm gonna say no, but we'll get to that later.
Paul?
There was a tag team match that takes that crown. It took the crown from it. It's my second favorite.
Yeah. I on this list it's on number 3, but a close third.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, like I said, I love the uniqueness of it. That's why my gut reaction when I was thinking about my favorite matches, I mean, I had a ton of fun watching this just because it was so new and unique. So I figured that it might be somebody's favorite match, despite the fact that we had 2 title matches in the Spectacular. I think that says a lot. So I hope that we get more of these, and not just Fatal 5-Ways. Maybe if they can figure out some kind of battle royale. I encourage experimenting and seeing these new types of matches throughout the regular season. So I hope that that's coming in 2017. Before we move on to the kayfabe that came after it, does anybody have any final thoughts that they didn't get out on the match?
Let me give you some production notes. We're still going to get music played during scores and soundtracks. They thought they were going to be able to do it this year, but it's going to be held back for season 2. They have the technology and the gear to do it. The backdrop during the post interviews, I was a big fan of that new backdrop. Yep. We are getting a rebranded one for season 2 of the movie Trivia Schmoedown.
Perfect.
I think the only thing I want to bring up, and I just want to qualify real quick, that I don't think there was a bad match in this, and I'm not saying that to kiss ass. I really think this was the absolute best possible way to put these 5 matches on, and I'm with you, Brian. I think the background was great. I enjoyed all of that. This match in particular, while it wasn't my personal favorite, I would be lying if I, didn't say that this had a big fight feel. Right. I mean, that's all I can really say, but it had a huge fight. It was definitely important, that's for sure.
Paul, what you got?
Yeah, I was going to say, for those people who are also wondering, like I said, there was a nice balance of questions asked and the topics as well, and just for those that are big into numbers, and this goes out to Frank. Out of all of the topics that were given, I had Lord of the Rings. There was only 4 questions. Star Wars 5, Star Trek 6, MCU 7, and DC EU and /U. I just kind of lumped them together, so there was 8. So it was well balanced. So for those people who are like, oh, he got all the Star Trek. Oh, there's too many Star Trek questions. There really wasn't.
But when it counted, he got the questions that were in his wheelhouse.
He did, absolutely did, and I was quite impressed with that. Even, obviously, you saw Mance jumping in there every time he said the year, and then he gave the date. So, even got Mance even before Mance was in the spotlight. So, again, it was a wonderful matchup, and it was really well done. And Aaron, I completely agree with you. Everything across the board was stellar. And it truly was. Every match was not. There was no boring match in the bunch whatsoever.
I have a exclusive regarding production value.
Oh.
In 2017, we are getting some major aesthetic changes to the studio. Some major aesthetic changes, and some of them will feel familiar, yet they'll feel new at the same time. So I don't want to say what they are, but some really cool stuff is coming on that front. So we've got the new backdrop, of course, but we've also got kind of a new layout for everything coming. So we'll see more on that later. And I've got a quote from Kristian in regards to the overall goal in 2017 that I'll share with you guys later in this episode. Last week, we talked about on our show how they have a new female co-host that will be added to the rotation next year. So lots of changes coming. Snelling, do you want to talk about the big moment in the post-interview as far as kayfabe goes?
I definitely do. Now, at first, I wasn't hot on the fourth horseman or the four horsemen idea, just because I thought that the introduction of it was slightly confusing, because I didn't know. I might be alone in this, and that's fine. I didn't know where we were going with it. But at this point in the match, we finally found out what this fourth horseman is, who the fourth horseman was, and this happened right after Robert Meyer Burnett won the match. And then, of course, Rocha comes in with Nost and Bibiani, who was hilarious, by the way, and they offer it to Robert Meyer Burnett. Brian, what did you think of this moment?
Well, I found it interesting because Snyder then came in and tried to one-up their offer for him to join the Lion's Den, and yet, as we know later, the Lion's Den already had their guy, or a couple guys, picked out already. So it just seemed like Snyder was trying to make it into a bigger moment, even though they already had their two guys added to their stable. So that was kind of the weird part, but it makes sense. I mean, I'm not a fan of the Horsemen. I'm not a fan of Rocha. So Robert Meyer Burnett, that's a fine addition. He's a good player, but I'm just not interested in this stable like I am the Lion's Den.
Paul Wolf, what do you think of the divide between the four horsemen and the Lion's Den?
It makes for good television. I was completely shocked to see Burnett take that fourth spot, and it's kind of hard when you really look at, they're both heel stables. I mean, you really don't have, there's no good guys so either way he was going to be a heel no matter what. And it kind of surprised me that it sort of surprised me that he joined, but I wasn't surprised that Rocha would try and get the champion on his side so he would not have to be, confronted by him at a later time. I'm not sure if Rocha would actually hang with someone like Burnett in those areas, but I actually do have some insider, not to use that pun, but I have insider information for a championship match that you'll see down the road with Robert Meyer Burnett, and it's a very interesting pairing, I'll just say that. So I like the Lion's Den. I think it was cool. I was shocked as well to see Andreyko join up, because obviously that makes him the strongest on that team right away, next to Snyder, and then GTE. But then, of course, later on in the match, later on in the evening, you see something else go down that we'll cover later. But it was interesting. It was more shocking to me that Andreyko would join with them, because you've got Finstock now managing Andreyko, and we saw how strong he was. So interesting, but again, makes for interesting television.
Absolutely. And Brian, I think you probably remember me saying this a few episodes ago on Schmoeville, that I was excited to see this type of thing happening. The kayfabe and the cutaways to the backstage type of stuff that makes it feel that much more produced, that much more like the WWE. So even when they transition into the Andreyko stuff backstage, I was just grinning ear to ear, and we'll talk about it throughout the rest of the show. But those moments just really made me happy. They were all funny, a ton of fun, and that it really, really supplemented and added to the Schmoedown Spectacular as expected. So,
well, you asked me. You said, "What is Finstock's role going to be now that he's not a competitor? I mean, what is he actually going to do?" And this is exactly what he's going to do. He's going to cause a ruckus on the side stage. He's going to create the side show behind the scenes and off camera. And so I think the Spectacular gives us a good idea of what he'll be doing while the actual competition is taking place. And overall, partially because of the graphics, they really went for the royal purple and gold. This felt like an event. This felt special. Am I the only one? I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels that way. Did you guys get a sense that this was an above average and a special episode?
Oh yeah, I mean with the royal purple and the yellow, that's classic WrestleMania color.
Right.
So right away, it's plugging me in as a giant wrestling fan. And even to Paul's point a minute ago about the Horsemen, every good team or every team needs a foil. Just like in wrestling and Snelling, you'll just have to follow me on this. DX had the Nation of Domination. The NWO had WCW. Every team needs a foil. And if the Lion's Den can be the foil to the Four Horsemen, it's going to be incredibly entertaining. Just a quick bit about the Lion's Den. That's actually the name of one Ken Shamrock's training camp, former WWE Intercontinental Champion and UFC fighter as well. So both names not original, which if that's fine. But yeah, Brian, I'm right with you. It had a big fight feel from the graphics to the music. It felt really, really special.
Because when you watch WrestleMania, it feels different from an episode of Raw. It would feel different from Royal Rumble or SummerSlam. It had this heightened feel to it, and they captured that beautifully on this episode.
I'd be very surprised if anyone felt differently. And I told Kristian, I mean, this was just a ton of fun. And did all of us here watch it from beginning to end, like without pausing and taking a break?
I was mesmerized. I was absolutely mesmerized as I sat there, did not get up, just watched the whole thing.
Paul, did you watch it in its entirety?
I unfortunately had to take a break to go get dinner, but then I came right back and like 20 minutes later and watched the rest.
Clearly, you're not as committed, Paul. You're clearly not as committed as us.
Hey, my kids had to eat. My kids had to eat. I had to pull out. I paused. Like I headed upstairs, watched about an hour and a half of it, and you know, I get a text. Kids are hungry, so I paused it, ran out, got food, came back, and watched the rest of it from then on out downstairs with everybody. So I was not, by myself upstairs, wondering what was going on. So unfortunately, I didn't watch the whole thing straight through, but I just had that little break. Sorry.
I just want to say it's a shame that the Beast is being wasted in John Rocha's stable. I mean, the guy deserves so much better. He deserves so much better than the Four Horsemen.
Come on.
I cannot wait for the Beast to turn on Outlaw and slay him.
Are you at least entertained by Bibiani doing the growl growl? Because that is absolutely killing me.
I've got a bunch of Bibiani quotes coming in the next kayfabe segment that we'll get to chronologically, because we're going in chronological order of the event, so that's why we're kind of holding back in certain parts. But everything Bibiani has done so far has rang true. He has not rung a false note as far as I'm concerned.
I'm right there with you. I did have to take a short break, Ryan, because my boxer came and sat in front of me, my dog, and that usually means I got to go outside. So better outside than inside, I always say. So I did take a short break, yes. Regardless,
I feel sorry for all those suckers that have to watch it in 2 parts on YouTube.
Oh, boy.
I don't want to... Kristian's going to have, like, PTSD from this upload disaster, and I'm going to just, when I say things like that, it's going to trigger something, and he's going to start throwing things.
Well, he's currently not on social media, so who knows if it'll reach him.
Okay, let's go right into what happened right after that, which was, and we were promised this, that John Campea and Ken Knapsack would address the controversy behind the Star Wars Schmoedown that happened previously in the week.
Do you want to talk about that? Do you want to just kind of recap that real quick? The two central issues, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, let's recap the match briefly to bring us to what happened here in the Schmoedown. Hopefully everyone's watched that match already because it was just absolutely incredible. But did anyone here catch the controversy before Kristian addressed it? Did anyone notice that Freddie had written the incorrect answer down, or is it still, did we miss it because of the stupid dry erase boards?
I did not catch it at all.
Let me just say, here's why I caught it.
Oh, boy.
They spent a lot of time. Well, hold on. This will make sense. They spent a lot of time showing us the confusion that took place after that point where Kristian is trying to tell the score scorekeeper, whatever you want to call it, that Campia got it wrong. So I feel like they purposely hung on that confusion-based moment to show us in hindsight, to show us in hindsight why they screwed up that moment. So that's why I did catch that, because there was so much attention on the scoring that there was something that just didn't seem right. Something had to be off, and I feel like they left that in there when they would normally cut it out to show us later in hindsight that there was so much confusion that makes the mistake a bit more understandable. So that was my thinking, and that's why I caught it.
Now, Paul, let me know what you think about this. I don't think, even though we had this nice moment where Kristian addressed all of the viewers and let him know that he had made a mistake, is there any way that Kristian actually cared that this happened, or was he actually grinning at the fact that this controversy would carry into the spectacular?
Well, it's honestly, it could be both. It really can. The way that Kristian's running it, we've made comparisons before to Vince McMahon. We've seen Dana White. We've seen all sorts of different mannerisms from everybody that's been in charge of every league that we've ever watched in professional wrestling, where he could be apologetic and, oh, I'm sorry, but what's the book Eric Bischoff wrote? Controversy Creates Cash, I believe that's what it was called. And
that is
so
correct.
If you think about it, oh darn, he's got to have another matchup, and where else are they going to have it is one of the bigger cons out there in Florida coming up here in the new year. So, oh darn, he's going to have to do another one where more exposure with these teams will happen. So I feel he did the ho-hum thing, but it was one of those, but man, we got to do it at Celebration. That sucks. So I really kind of think it might be both. He might be playing both sides.
The asterisk beside that, and I followed up with Kristian, that was more of them throwing it out there. It's not confirmed that they are doing it as of right now, but I asked him if he felt good about it based on his relationship with Star Wars, and he said yes, he did feel pretty good about it. So I think it's safe to say that actually will happen, the rematch. But Brian, what were your thoughts on what Campia and Knapsack did during that time?
Well, keep in mind, Freddie and Sam, they can get that going by themselves. They've got a lot of pull because Rebels will have a major presence there, I'm sure. But
sure,
it's one of those things where you make lemonade out of lemons. Is that the expression? I might be butchering it, but you
got it.
You don't want to have these situations, but you make the best of it in the process, and that's what Kristian is doing. Every commissioner of any league has these moments where something happens, a call is blown, they address it, and they try to move on as best they can. And I'm surprised we haven't had more of these moments throughout this young league, but in the end, it's going to work out for everybody. I wish it didn't happen, but it was still a great match. I'm still satisfied. I still think Sam and Freddie deserved to win. Sam was just so good by himself that I think he deserved the win, even though technically the match should have been forfeited. There's an argument to be made about that. But later in the match, though, people are saying that Ken was given a buzz-in that Sam actually got first. So did anyone investigate this any further in the buzz-in round?
Are you talking about the one that Makuga judged and Sam shouted about?
Well, Ken got the question he got the answer first. When some people say they slowed down the tape, Sam was actually first on it. So that could balance this out, but then some people debated, well, if you slow it down, maybe it's not. So I'm just curious if any of you guys actually looked into this moment or not.
No, I didn't really catch it. I didn't really go back. I'll take Josh McCouga's word for it. He's reliable.
I disagree completely. I'm not surprised at all if that is the case, purely because Makuga was the judge. But I do find it funny.
Can I just make I want to make a quick point about something it's related but sort of not related. Can I just say that John Campia, I don't know where he's getting these things, but he had an amazing Imperial track jacket during that match, and then turn it back around, and during the protest, he had an Avengers track jacket. The guy's track jacket game is on fire, because they were both amazing jackets. I know that's a complete side note, but as far as the controversy goes, you guys have all said it. Kristian is a fox, man. He knows exactly what he's doing. And, you know, Snelling, I asked him the same thing. I was like, so this is going down at Celebration. He said it's not confirmed. But, you know, I'm pretty excited about it because where I currently live, Star Wars Celebration is in my backyard. Literally my backyard. So I'll be there. I'm excited for it.
Guys, were Campia and Ken on the same page when it came to addressing the controversy? Because Campia came out throwing punches. He said it's a screw job, it was fixed from the start, and then Ken came in and kind of splashed cold water on that and said, let's be gentlemen about this, we just want a rematch. So did Campia and Ken actually talk this through? Or was Campia always going to do this and Ken was going to be the voice of reason? Because they were both coming at it from very different styles. Kind of like when Makuga and Finstock, when they were still Team Fanuga, kind of like when they came in for the Schmo test and one person protested one thing, the other person protested another thing. So it didn't seem like they were on the same page either. What do you guys think?
I definitely picked up on that, and that is exactly what it reminded me of, 100%.
I think anytime that you have a Canadian and the word screw job in the same sentence, you're calling back to some wrestling history. So I tend to shake my head at that. But yeah, it did seem like it was a bit, Campy was coming on a little bit strong, and I think Ken was resourceful enough to be like, all right, let's pull it back and make this a little bit more even and interesting.
Yeah, we have a history of John Campia going off the rails with any little tiny bit of news, any repeat questions we've seen in the past. So you definitely saw a good cop, bad cop routine in the rebuttal with John Campia flying off the handle and Ken reeling it in. So I'm not surprised that Campia took that direction because again, we've seen it before.
Definitely. But just to cap this discussion off, I pray to God that this actually happens at Celebration, because that could mean so much for this league and for Collider and for the Schmoes. Aaron, am I allowed to come stay with you if I go to Celebration?
I do have a spare room. That is a fact.
You can say no, Aaron. It's okay.
Currently, it is promised to my friend that is coming from Illinois. But I don't know. Maybe we can work something out. I got a couch too. I got some dog beds. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
This is actually happening. I'm coming to Celebration.
You could meet Freddie Prinze Jr., man. Come on. It's like your 90s dream come true.
Finally. Is there Qdoba down there?
It's funny that you mentioned that because you guys cracking on Qdoba for the past couple weeks has really just put a huge grin on my face because I'm not originally from Florida. I'm actually from West Virginia, which is around your neighborhood there, Snelling, kind of around that area.
Unfortunately.
I know of Qdoba, but I tend to think Qdoba is a little bit... Qdoba and Chipotle get, combined together, and they're kind of looped in together. I'm more of a Tijuana Flats man myself, but if I had to pick one over the other, I would probably take Chipotle over Qdoba. No offense.
Okay. All right. Well, move it on.
Everybody went crazy when he said Qdoba was better than Chipotle. So
it's insanity.
This is all blasphemous for me. Are we ready to go to ETC versus Trek team match?
Well, we have some kayfabe that happened between ETC and the Star Wars controversy. We had Draco joining the Lion's Den in the back room. This is the writer's room where Ken and Riley hang out together intimately throughout most days at Collider. And again, as we said earlier, people wanted to know what would Finstock be doing as a manager. Well, this is exactly what he'll be doing. He'll be causing a ruckus behind the scenes, and he'll be kind of the spokesman, which leads to another great moment later in the event. But oh my God, I mean, this was another moment though where Rocha came in to try to one up the offer to Andraco because
a
Snyder
lot of
did the
Rocha
same
in the
thing
spectacular.
there. Yeah, Rocha was everywhere. Again, I really would have preferred that not to be the case, but then everybody came in, though. I mean, everybody came in, though. This became a whole big thing. JTE's yelling at the Beast. The Beast is yelling out, I'm choosing to leave because I want to. Robert Meyer Burnett is yelling biblical quotes. This was just great stuff that I'm glad they unleashed at this event. I really am.
Definitely, 100%. Anything else before we move on?
No.
Perfect. So, talking about the team match, ETC versus Trek, let me ask you, was this anyone's favorite match?
I'm going to have to go with no. No on that one, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I love Scott Mance, but I'm going to have to go with no.
Paul?
I would say it's the most satisfying. I certainly enjoyed the outcome.
Really? Interesting. Now, why is that? Go ahead and give me your take on this, Paul.
Will do. Aaron and I have talked about this before in the past as well. That out of any team, we talk about Rocha. You've said your distaste for Rocha. You've said your opinions on other teams, and we've seen the Lion's Den and the Four Horsemen being both heel teams. ETC, above all, in my eyes, is the heel. That is in capital letters. The heel team. I hate them so much because of their antics, because of the way that Ricky. I mean, I've said it before, and I'll say it again in this match too. Yeah. What is it that you do here, Ricky? I mean, I feel that Finstock could beat Ricky. It's that bad. Like, why is he there? And in fact, I even said that to Kristian when I was DMing him. I'm like, why is he there? And he goes, to complete the team. That's about it. I'm like, okay. And it was funny. I mean, it's just, swearing up and down, not even like caring. It just didn't seem like he even wanted to be there. I mean, the only cool part about it is that they threw in the John Cena theme, but I think that was just like tongue-in-cheek type of a entrance that they pulled off. And the Elliot with the Hulk Hogan mustache too. That was cool too. Other than that, I mean, I'm so glad Team Trek took care of this.
And that's the thing, and I'm going to go to you, Brian, about this. That's the thing that makes me not feel connected to ETC as heels, because the thing with Rocha, even though he's a heel, he is passionate about the Schmoedown. He gives it his all. He's totally involved in the entire league, and the biggest disconnect with ETC is that they don't feel as involved. And not only that, but Ricky acted like he was giving up in the middle of the match, and that's why I don't respond to them. Like, I don't respond to them like they're heels. Like, they're not fun to hate. It just kind of sometimes feels like they're spoiling the league for me. And Brian, I have a hunch that this was probably your least favorite match.
Look, the best heels are also good at the competition. They are not good. Ricky drags them down significantly. Dewberry's got potential, but again, you're only as strong as your weakest link. But I can't say this enough. This event is the greatest event Collider and Schmoes have ever produced. But this was absolutely the low light of the event because ETC did not belong there. They mostly got there because of their shtick. They were really laying it on thick in their previous match against Real Rejects. And that one match long ago when they were still Team Machinima versus Team Profiles, Mance and Malone, that kind of helped them get a pass here. But they did not belong here. I'm glad that Trek knocked them out. But their shtick got old real quick. I was not amused by any of it. I kind of laughed last time they were around just because the Paul Stance cab stuff was funny a little bit, but it was completely old this time around, and it wasn't effective. I mean, it just wasn't effective the second time around. Jokes aren't as funny when you hear them again, but this just did not work on any level. And Ricky Schroeder, he was just off his game. I mean, Dewberry said he was hungover, but for a guy that's supposed to bring funny shtick, he didn't bring anything. Literally, he didn't bring points. He didn't bring any funny jokes, any funny shtick. He was completely useless, and I hope we never see this team again.
Aaron, are we?
Wow.
Aaron, are we being? Aaron, are we being cranky, or do you agree?
I said during the preview that we did on Tuesday that I think that ETC is fake. They're fake heels. I feel like Ricky in particular is that guy in like high school that would like go pull the fire alarm. And he's like, look what I did, isn't that funny? And it's like, no, it's not funny. And he's like the guy that like, yes, he's a menace. He's like the guy that throws paper airplanes at the teacher, and he's like, look what I did. And everybody's like, no one cares what you did. So yeah, I'm with you on that wavelength. I thought Scott Mance during the last question was going to have a stroke, or strangle Ricky. I wasn't sure which one was going to happen, but I'm kind of with you. I'm done with ETC at the moment.
Let me just say that I want to see Dewberry in singles play because he's good on his own. He's capable as far as singles play. I do kind of like the fact that he dressed up as Hollywood Hogan and then led with the Gawker joke just because Hogan just sued Gawker for, I don't know, hundreds of millions of dollars and won. And so he said, you remember Gawker? Me neither. So that was the one bit of shtick, the one joke that I appreciated, and it obviously didn't come from Ricky Schroeder. It came from Elliot Dewberry dressed as Hollywood Hogan.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Hey, but how many times have we seen Dewberry do singles? Has he only been in like 2 matches?
I think it's 2. Yeah.
Has he done 2? Okay.
Mark Riley,
it is 2.
Mark Riley and Matt Nost were his opponents, I believe.
Yep.
Okay. How did you just pull that up? How do you recall that quickly?
I host the Schmoedown Rundown, sir. I got to know my stuff.
That's true.
Come on.
It blows my. Just talking about performance through the rounds. They finished round 1, 3, and 4. ETC went 0 and 3 with their second batch of questions. That was interesting. It blows my mind that Inman mistook Betsy Ross for Betty Ross. Blows my mind that he blew that, being the comic book guy. But it also blows my, going back to my point where it seemed like Ricky was giving up the fact that they didn't go multiple choice after repeatedly being told to go multiple choice. They still did not go for multiple choice during August Rush. I don't know. That was the part where I was kind of done with the match, or done with them anyways, because after being told a million times to do that, they weren't doing it.
He didn't know Brooks's job from Shawshank Redemption. That is just unacceptable.
I'm right there with you.
Even more unacceptable than that, in my opinion, is to be a film fan, to be in the space, and to not recall Ben Affleck's directorial debut.
Oh,
like,
God.
That's crazy to me.
Oh, and credit to Mance. I love how Mance came in with the timely quote, "You are gone, baby, gone," once they beat them. So,
absolutely. Hammered him. Good job by the Mance man on that, for sure.
Exactly. And I want to bring up something that I've been saying for a while, because this has to do with the Star Wars controversy, but it also happened to a much lesser degree when the score was 14-9. Kristian said it's 14-9, I believe. He said this on the air. There have been multiple instances throughout this entire season where Kristian hasn't been exactly sure of what the score is. He's not exactly on the same page because he's trying to broadcast. There's a lot of things to keep track of. He's relying on his team to help him. So I've been saying this for a while, that they need basically a script supervisor. In television, the script supervisor is on set with the script, and they basically make sure that the actors are saying what the script says and that no words are changed. They also keep track of continuity to make sure that what they are performing does not conflict with a previous element in the story. So they keep continuity intact. So I feel like the Schmoedown needs its own script supervisor, obviously less emphasis on the word script, more emphasis on supervisor, so that the score is constantly perfect, it's always kept track of, and that there are continuity, that continuity matters are kept in check, because they are juggling tape delays as well as so many different storylines all at one time. So our boy Kristian, he needs a supervisor of some sort.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, Kristian shouldn't be doing it. The guys that are hosting and running the game should not be responsible for it. It should definitely be queued up. So I don't know if Cody still has his dry erase board that he used from Top 10.
What's Emma Fife doing besides bringing out the wheel? Maybe she can be the script supervisor for the Schmoedown when she's not bringing out the wheel.
She's putting on different hats.
That can be her trademark, because obviously she needs a trademark. So
Brian, you're being savage tonight. My goodness.
Well, just we've had enough of these moments throughout this first season to where Kristian should not be the one to keep track of all these different timelines of events when this is taking place. And there are moments when Finstock has screwed things up for them because he'll let something slip, and they got to have someone that is in charge. They need to have their own Pablo Hidalgo, basically, that keeps track of all the canon, all the continuity, all the timelines, all the scores, and that way Kristian doesn't have it all on his shoulders. He's got enough to worry about as it is.
It's a fair point. At the end of the match, Trek won 14-12. ETC went bye-bye, and Brian was definitely happy about that. Mance continues to go nuts at the end. At the end of the match, Inman said that he is after Robert Meyer Burnett. So those two guys, we might see them clash very soon in 2017.
Also, here's why I don't want to see ETC again. At the end of the match, Ricky Schroeder tried to say the match was fixed. So
yeah.
I get he's trying to be funny, but at that point, just take your loss and go home. Like, don't undermine the rest of the competition. I know he's trying to be funny, but it wasn't funny whatsoever. That guy got old real fast. I hope we never see him again. Bring Dewberry back in singles play. That's it.
Paul, do you think that Team Trek is going to hold on to the belt for a while, or do you think someone else could come in and take it from them?
The Team Trek's belt, as in the number one contendership?
Oh yes, I'm sorry. I forgot that they're going up against the team title winner. I meant to ask, do you think that they will take?
Did you see? I was going to say, did you see something I didn't?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I misspoke. Do you think they are? Do you think they're
okay.
going to be able to take the belts, or do you think they're going to go the way?
Well, yeah. It is literally, I think, a toss-up. But I mean, you could see that the tag belts, since the Schmoes lost it, it's been kind of a hot potato. I mean, every one defense they lose it, then the next team the first defense they lose it. So you never know with Team Patriots or with Top 10 versus Team Trek, either one. I mean, it's literally that spin of the wheel again, and we keep seeing that over and over again, that you never know. And if I may, going back, this is the first match of many that got my blood boiling when it comes to animated, and it just kept going. Just nobody knows animated, and I just am freaking out every time. And I said that throughout the match with Kristian. I will fly down and challenge anybody to an animated showdown, because literally it just, every time an animated question came up, granted it was Ricky, or it was but it was still, no one got animated in this one either. And regardless, just going back to the main point, I see Team Trek as being a formidable opponent to either of the two. Later on, we'll see who the actual champion is going to be, but we see that I can see them as a very formidable team no matter who they face.
Aaron, final thoughts?
I think as long, and I've said this before, but I'll reiterate this, as long as Inman can keep Mance on point, then the Team Trek is a great team. But it's when Mance gets frazzled and he starts looking in the crowd and he's like, come on, movie release dates, December 22nd, 1932. Am I right? That's when Mance gets off track, and that's when mistakes start to happen. So as long as Mance is in the focus, I mean, yeah, Team Trek's going to be tough to beat for anybody.
I think Mance, between the two, is the most well-rounded, so I don't know why he's always worried about getting that topic. I think Inman is the one that will have more weaknesses when it comes to spinning that wheel. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that Mance is clearly the heavyweight of that team, but I do like the team overall, and I can't wait to see more from them.
But this is why they are dangerous, because of the entire league, they are the only ones that want the movie release dates category on the wheel. Everybody else will avoid it. Obviously, Schmoes took a crack at it once before, but they are the only team that you feel confident can actually do some damage if that comes up. They can actually steal points from people if that lands on another team against their will. So don't sleep on this team.
That's a fair point. Fair point.
Also, guys, I accidentally jumped ahead in regards to the backstage kayfabe. Right after this match, we had the big confrontation between the Four Horsemen and Lion's Den. This is when JTE went after the Beast. This is when Robert Meyer Burnett was saying we are biblical. This is when Bibiani said, I fervently disagree with your assessment, and I'm leaving because I want to. So that was the big showdown, and I love the Beast. I cannot wait for the Beast to become a major player in Season 2.
100% agree.
I do have a point actually on the Lion's Den Four Horsemen confrontation there. It was confirmed that Jeff Snyder challenged Rocha during that time, and JTE challenged Bibiani. So look for that squash match in 2017.
So I got a quote from Kristian before we recorded, and I said, where do you want to see the Schmoedown at the end of 2017? You've just had a big first season. And he said to me the following, and he said, I have a very unrealistic dream of seeing a magazine title that says the guys who made movie trivia a sport. So that kind of shows you how far he wants to take this thing. He believes it can be the next big thing, and I believe it can too. So I love the ambition. I love that there's nothing that's going to stop this guy from making the movie trivia Schmoedown. The next, who knows? This could be, maybe it's not going to be UFC level, but it can be one of those classic games that takes over a big chunk of the internet.
And if anyone could do it, it's Golden Throat. I mean, without a doubt. After the fun that we have had watching it and discussing the Spectacular, I mean, I'm already thinking about next year. I'm thinking about what they're going to add, like if there's going to be a second event in the summertime. Like, I'm already thinking about the next time we get to experience this. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I'm still sort of riding the high of the Spectacular as we're talking.
I would just say let's not get big too soon. Let's just kind of let it keep growing and kind of do the organic thing. We don't want to put like, okay, well, it's 3 months in, so we need to do a big event, and then 3 months in, and again, we need to do a big event. Like, let's just. I mean, I know we're all riding the high, so let's just pump back. We don't want to push it too far too soon and oversaturate it. But I think you do make a good point about, like game show wise. I think the thing that's missing from modern game shows is they have no personality. It's just the host has a personality, like it's Chris Hardwick or it's some other popular fun person, but the guests have no personality. And with the Schmoedown, everybody's got a personality, from Kristian and Mark on commentary to Sasha doing the interviews to the competitors themselves. Everybody's got a personality, so it makes it a lot different than your regular game shows. And
we don't want to overwhelm Skaliski. I mean, God forbid.
Can I actually give you a note that Skaliski gave me a little bit ago?
I would love to hear this.
We were talking about, I was asking him about the Inner Geekdom Championship. We were talking about that, and I was asking him, like, how much work he had put into that, and he told me, this is a quote, I'll read it verbatim. He said that 90% of the questions from the Inner Geekdom Championship came straight from his brain. No books, straight from his brain. So
hey,
there you go.
Let's take the opportunity. Chris Skaliski, my man.
The man himself.
Killing it. Thank you so much for all the work that you put in every day with the Schmoedown, but in particular, the Spectacular. Are you guys ready to talk about the team title match between Top 10 and the Patriots?
Let's do it.
You mean the highlight of the entire event?
That was my next question. The question I'm going to ask at the beginning of every match that we discuss here. Was this your all's favorite match?
I might as well lead. This was absolutely the highlight of the event. This was an amazing match. One of the best endings, one of the classic endings that goes up there with Harloff and Rocha from the Ultimate Schmoedown tournament. So, goodness gracious, I cannot wait to discuss this even more. What about you guys?
I think it's hands down the best match. Absolutely. Team Patriots coming in, I didn't know what to expect. They came in laser focused. Team Top 10 had just knocked out the Schmoes. I didn't know what to expect, and this match far exceeded my expectations. I'm over the moon for it.
Paul, what do you think?
Well, I certainly was on the edge of my seat for this one, with how just back and forth, just seeing, you know, hits and misses all the way across the board, with some of the questions being, you know, answered and some of the questions not, and the crowd getting into it and screaming, you know, and getting into it, just being just passionate for it. I have a feeling we're going to hear a lot about how you know your distaste for Rocha, and I have a feeling that's probably why you're over the moon on this one.
Oh yeah.
I had top 10 winning because I thought, you know, JTE wasn't going to be the strong part of the group. I thought it was going to be the handicap match of the title of the whole evening. But JTE, when it counted, he did fine. Again, the animated category came up, and even during the round where they had to spin the wheel, I mean, they got animated. They got all of them but one, and I was shocked to see that. And, you know, it was across the board. Jeff and JTE kind of shared the load there, and getting, you know, 8 points in that round, I was just completely happy at that point. And I think that might have actually turned the entire game around for them. And I came away completely shocked, and I loved what made it for me was Kristian's ending with how he announced it. Because you didn't know what the score was going to be because they didn't put it up yet. And then when he announced new champions, I just kind of was like, oh my God, like completely shock value. I was bummed because, again, I had top 10, but the way the whole match was, I mean, edge of my seat, just completely enthralled by what went on.
Did you count how many animated questions there were in this match?
Not just in this match, the whole evening. I counted how many there were.
Well, it just seemed like there were a lot in this particular match. I could be wrong, but
let me look real quick. In the first round, there was one. Nost got one, JTE got one, and they both missed it. And then the Patriots, their second spin was animated, so there were 6 questions there. There was actually one question in the speed round that was missed by Patriots, to make it 13 to 11. And then you saw.
That was, I believe, the Pocahontas question. The one that
let's not go there.
There was a Disney one. There was a Disney one which you could count as animated because I believe it was it Chip? No, that was later on. That was Merle did that
one. So it was loaded with animated.
Tim Burton. There was another one, but that was Nightmare Before Christmas. So yeah, there was a good number of animated in this one.
But it's worth pointing out, though, the intros to this match were interesting because we had Finstock as manager bringing out 2 of his stable members, 2 of his stable mates. Android was with him too, so we're seeing that team, that stable, kind of show us what they're going to be like. We're seeing their personality. Unfortunately, Natasha Martinez, she's made so much progress lately on Movie Talk, kind of breaking out of her shell. And then she introduces John Rocha. They do a little dance or whatever it is. She brought him out. I was very disappointed to see that just because she has made such great progress overall. So, big setback.
But Natasha and Rocha have had this connection. Like, Natasha has been Rocha's girl for a long time, especially when he appears on Movie Talk throughout the week. So
whatever. But the big thing, though, Rocha went over and teabagged Mance as he was sitting Indian style on the ground. And that's such a Scott Mance thing to do, is to sit Indian style on the ground at a Schmoedown. Really that is something that he would do when you think about it. But the Beast, again, went after JTE during the intro. So great rivalry that is now born as a result.
Definitely. Let's not forget, of course, poor Robert Meyer Burnett did not understand the Wolfpack finger touch. Oh my goodness, poor guy. But yeah, that was bad too. But
kind of brutal.
They'll get there.
You'd think with a friend like John Schnepp, like as metal as John Schnepp is, you'd think that Robert Meyer Burnett would be more familiar with something like that.
It's a good point.
Guys, going into round 2, it was only 2-2. I mean, this was a very low-scoring match starting out. Neither team wanted to take a lead, but here's why I picked Team Patriots. I know Paul thought top 10 would win, but I thought Patriots would win just because they have a bit of momentum. Snyder's been hot. But the one thing I was worried about with top 10 was Matt Nost. Matt Nost has struggled lately. And that was the case in this match too. He was absolutely dreadful in this match. And I don't want to say he cost them the match, but he did not help them whatsoever. So Matt Nost I was concerned about, and those concerns were valid because they lost the belt. So did you guys have any concerns about Matt Nost, Aaron, in particular?
You know, I'd also picked Team Patriots to win just because of the same things that you had said. Matt Nost is, you know, in the Schmoes match, which when they KO'd the Schmoes, Matt was actually pretty strong in that.
Well, McQueenie just beat the crap out of him not too long ago, so that's probably at the forefront of my mind. But again, momentum. It's all about momentum.
You're exactly right, and he had the loss to Elliot Dewberry as well. Yeah. So as far as if you focus on the singles, Matt Nost is kind of like, I don't know if he's good enough or not. It just seemed like no matter what the question was, it just wasn't going to be Matt Nost's night, and it just ended up not being his night at all.
I do have some stats real quick. I just found Matt Nost actually lost for the team at least 7 points. He didn't get any in the first round. He lost a point for them in the speed round, and he didn't get the 3-point question in the 5th round. So there was 7 points he left on the table.
His downturn kind of reminds me of Mark Riley a little bit. Mark Riley had a great stretch for a long time, was the champion, but then he hit a really big rough patch, and I feel like Nost is the next person that's in the midst of a rough patch. Aaron, would you agree with that? What do you think?
You know, I would almost say it's almost reminiscent of a JTE downturn, but we'll get there. We'll get there here in a minute.
But let's not exaggerate. I mean, come on. JTE has bottomed out before this match completely. So,
I've always believed in him, as you guys know. I always feel like he's capable of anything, but he's his own worst enemy. This match, obviously Snyder bailed him out of a couple moments, but JTE, it's not a knowledge thing. It's a JTE thing. If he gets out of his own way, I think he's capable of winning any match. I mean, obviously the results thus far don't support that, but there's been something about this guy that warrants belief, and that's why he had a mockumentary made about him, because other people see the potential in him too.
JTE provided not only one of the best moments of the match, but one of the best moments of the night with that Finding Nemo answer. My goodness.
Remind me?
The question was, and I'm paraphrasing, what city do the characters in Finding Nemo find themselves in?
No, that was Who Framed Roger Rabbit. That was the Who Framed Roger Rabbit. He said Toonland and not Toontown.
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
That was a great moment too. Toonland versus Toontown. Right. Ellis had a field day with Toonland the rest of the night. I love Ellis in those particular moments. But Snelling, what was the moment you had in mind?
At the end of round 1, the question was essentially, where do the characters in Finding Nemo find themselves?
Right. Yeah, that's right. The city.
When you think of Finding Nemo, there is only one location aside from the ocean that comes to mind, and it's Sydney, Australia. But he guessed Los Angeles, and Mark Ellis was so quick to call out that JTE just pulled a JTE, and it was one of my favorite moments. But you're right, Toonland was also great.
Can we just talk about animation in general in this match? For the love of Pete. If a quick story, if I may, about my wife in regards to the Schmoedown. She's into it because, we do the thing, we do the podcast, and she kind of like
wants to know. Aaron, take it easy. Hold on.
Oh, sorry, excuse me. Didn't mean to do podcast. Apologize. But she follows along, and she'll answer a question here or there, and she'll snicker when somebody gets one wrong. I've never seen her so incensed when they asked the just around the river bend question.
Oh, God.
She was visibly shaken. She couldn't believe it. And then follow up with the Jasmine's tiger question. I thought she was going to pull her hair out. And then compound that with like, what's the name of Jack Skellington's pet? And I really thought that I was going to be I guess a widower or whatever you call this evening. My goodness, she was not having it, and I couldn't blame her. I couldn't blame her. It was just a bad animation. Come on, man. I guess I could understand Jack Skellington's pet, but nothing else. There's no way.
Well, the crowd wasn't having it either. I mean, that was the biggest uproar the entire night that we got from our audience. They were so pissed off.
Yeah, and if you remember Snelling, my son, Grayson, was even getting those questions right, too. He was like, really? My kids were even in the back, or my other two were like, those are easy. So I'm like, I know. It was so bad.
I love the fact that you watch with your kids, by the way.
Yeah.
This will surprise you guys, but what drove me craziest was the fact that Top 10 did not know A Time to Kill with Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, that was
John
also
Grisham novel. I mean, that was his breakout role in A Time to Kill, and yet they said Lincoln Lawyer. That just drove me insane, because that literally was McConaughey's breakout role. And for two guys that are well versed on film history, I was surprised by that. But then the moment after that, who plays the mom in Failure to Launch? Kathy Bates. Ellis says, in regards to Terry Bradshaw, who's in that film as well, he says he shows his ass in that movie. And then the one time where you really need Magic Hat McCouga there to address a Pittsburgh Steelers Hall of Fame quarterback, the one time he's not there to defend Terry Bradshaw's ass, of course, he's not there to do it. So, strange moment that I wish McCouga was there. Overall, I just missed McCouga's presence in general. My good friend of the show, Josh McCouga, you really feel his absence when he's not there.
Did you just want to take that moment to suck up? No, I agree.
I mean, it was an interesting, it was a
completely.
funny moment in general, but the one time when a Pittsburgh Hall of Famer comes up in regards to his bare ass, McCouga is not there to defend him in any way, shape, or form. So I was just looking forward to the what if moment, and I've spent way too long explaining this.
I agree completely that McCouga's absence was definitely felt. And what's funny is what you just described. If that had played out, then my conversation on the podcast would be like, oh, of course, McCouga had to jump in when they talked about it.
But guys, what did you think of Rocha? What did you think of Rocha trying to get out of his multiple choice the very next question in regards to the brothers question with Skeet Ulrich and Ethan Hawke, D'Onofrio? It was a Western, the Newton boys. Rocha said multiple choice. He tried to undo it quickly. Rocha kind of does this where he tries to push for things to be reversed. Aaron, do you have a take on this at all?
I think I would have just played it just as Kristian did when, Rocha said multiple choice, so that's what you said. You can't take back multiple choice and just answer the question. So I didn't have a problem with that whatsoever. They should have, played it as it was.
Rocha would have gone crazy if someone else tried to do this, and yet he's trying to push for redos and whatnot.
Definitely agree. He'd be going crazy. The audience cam would jump straight to him, and he'd be flipping people off. I mean, that's the thing, though, is I think he's always going to be doing things like that. I think it's just part of the heel thing that he's always going to have a problem with that kind of stuff, whether it happens to him or not.
And if I may, there was actually a couple points. It was really like glaring this time around. Was he's the outlaw, and I'm exactly the opposite of Brian here. He's one of my favorites, and he's a great personality. He's the one that got me kind of hooked into watching the Schmoedowns, and he and I have talked a few times too off of Twitter, and so I noticed this a lot in this spectacular. Is he's guns blazing, well into the outlaw character. He's got his four horsemen. Confidence oozing, everywhere. He sits down, and the first couple times he hears the topic or the subject matter of the question, what does he say? Oh crap! Or,
every category.
Every category. So it's like immediately the fantasy of that outlaw character just goes away, and he's back to just John Rocha again. And it was really glaring to me. Like, so if he wants to continue this character, I mean, he may need to add it a little bit more into and show a little bit more confidence, like his character is.
Well, guys, he needs a Benji Bronk. He needs a writer because he keeps spouting the same things over and over in every interview he's ever done, and that's why Mark Ellis is so special, because he's able to improv off the top of his head brilliant stuff that Rocha cannot do. So that's why he just keeps repeating himself. But
sure.
You guys are feeding into my theory about John Rocha and his character. Paul, you said it. Brian, you've made good points. Snelling, you've made good points. I don't think John Rocha is a heel. People keep saying he's a heel, he's this, he's that. He's not a heel, because John Rocha is what would be classified, and I'm sorry for the wrestling references, but he's what would we classify as a tweener. He's in between face and heel. He doesn't want to be disliked. That's not a heel. A heel does not give a crap. Jeff Sneider is a heel. JTE is now a heel. They don't care if you like them or not. John Rocha cares if you like him or not. So it kind of feeds into my theory with him playing it up a little bit in his, you know, his rhetoric that he likes to spill all the time, that he is just flat out not a heel. I mean, am I wrong on this, guys, or what?
That's why I don't like him, because he tries to be a heel when he's just a poser. He's got 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You got to be all in if you truly want to be a heel.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, Aaron, because I think that goes back to what I said before, and the reason why I can appreciate what Rocha does compared to ETC. So if you're saying that ETC is a heel, then yes, there is that distinction between ETC and what Rocha does. So I can actually get on board with what you're saying. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, there's a difference. There's a little bit of a difference between ETC, as I would classify as wannabe heels, and then Rocha kind of, I think he started off heel, and then he just kind of backtracked into that kind of uncanny territory where you're not sure, do I root for this guy? Do I not root for this guy? A classic heel just really doesn't give a crap. But,
right.
But I agree with Paul, though. I agree with Paul's great point, which was that I guess Rocha's inconsistent with his act, because I totally agree that when he pretends, and I think he does, maybe not every time, but I do think he pretends to not know answers, and he
and this will come up later in the singles match.
Yeah, he plays dumb way too much. That does not stay with his character at all. So
you can't be a tough guy and then be a basket case during the match and freak out over every question and just be sweating and trying to get questions undone or multiple choice erased. He's got to pick it. I mean, Bibiani is Bibiani, the character, the beast, all the time. He is not dropping the act. He's just keeping it going. So that is my biggest issue, as Aaron brought up, is the fact that he is not consistent in his act. He's all over the place.
Well, I think we can all agree that Matt Nost might need to be medicated after this match, because he seemed to be very upset. They lost by 1 point. The final score was 18-17. The big thing at the end for me was the fact that JTE finally gets a taste of the gold. And it's funny because he was the one, we were just making fun of him a second ago, but I'm actually kind of in a weird way happy for him.
Yeah, he's had a tumultuous season. It's been all over the place. He lost to an Olympic gold medalist swimmer in his first Schmoedown match. I mean, he bottomed out in every way you can bottom out. So I was happy to see this. I was happy for Jeff Sneider because he's had a terrible last month or so. In general, I won't get into it, but happy to see that. I got to jump back to a specific moment, though, in round 3 during the betting round, because Sneider and Rocha are going at it. And this is what drives me nuts about John Rocha. So top 10 chooses romance. And Sneider says, do you guys know anything about that? Rocha shoots back, ask your wife. Sneider then says, I don't have a wife. And then Rocha says, exactly. So Rocha thought he was being quippy, like George Costanza in the comeback episode of Seinfeld, and yet it completely backfired and just made him look like a dick. So he thought he could save himself by pretending it was a point he was trying to make all along. Meanwhile, Rocha is not married either. So it's just a total example of why I don't like John Rocha, when he just puts himself in situations like these and just makes himself look like an idiot in the process. So that was the round 3 moment that just is my feelings on Rocha in a nutshell.
I feel like you could say that about any of the other people at any time. I'm sure that they have completely botched what they thought were going to be comebacks, though. Like, I feel like you're nitpicking a little bit on Rocha.
I'm not nitpicking, because it's a perfect example of him being passive-aggressive and criticizing Snyder for something that also applies to him. It just reminds me so much of that moment in Seinfeld. I had sex with your wife, and the guy's wife died, and so it was so perfect in that sense.
His wife is in a coma.
But it's just, again, as Aaron said, once the game starts, he's a complete basket case. That's my phrase. He completely breaks down, but then a lot of these moments where he'll go back into character, try to be a tough guy. Then once the play resumes, then he's back to being weak and crazy and just all over the place and self-conscious and whatnot. So I just had to bring up that moment because they cut out some moments where I think Snyder responded to Rocha saying exactly. So I would love to hear the behind-the-scenes story of how that was resolved.
After the match, Snyder said that he wants to go up against Team Schmoes, and even though they just won the belt, I don't think they stand a chance against Schmoes if that matchup actually happens. Aaron, what do you think?
Well, first I want to go back to a quick point about JT getting a championship. Back when we interviewed Kristian on one of our episodes, he had said that one of the things that he wanted to see happen at the Spectacular was JTE finally get a championship. And I have to think, and I did ask Kristian about this, if he felt kind of like I don't want to say like a proud dad because it sounds kind of weird, but like almost like a proud dad. Like JTE was this guy.
Doting dad. There's that word again.
Okay. Well, it's just, he wanted this so bad for JT, and he felt bad because JT kept losing. JT knows that JT is good at trivia. He said many times that he and JTE share opinions on the same movies. They have the same kind of movie wavelength. So I got to think a little bit. He said that it was electric in there when JTE won. So I got to think. I asked him if he shed a tear. He said, he didn't really answer. So I'm going to take that as a yes. So I'm very impressed with that. As for Team Schmoes versus Team Patriots, I don't think it's as cut and dry as you think it is. I'm riding Team Patriots right now, man. I think they're going to be tough to beat. That's just my take.
Paul, what was your reaction to the win?
I mentioned this when we had Jeff Snyder on too. I asked him, how does he feel? Like he's kind of the saving grace for JTE with that 0-4 matchup, in the singles competition. He was riding on a huge low, and bringing in Snyder to pick him up and Team Patriots, and got his groove back, if you really want to give it a phrase. And you saw it in the next couple matches up into the #1 contenders match here, and then winning the titles. And as I wanted top 10, I am actually very happy that JTE finally did get something. And again, you have Jeff Snyder to thank, and he picked a good partner after all that decision that came down a few months back. And so I'm happy for him. I really am. I really like that he finally has that taste of a championship. And I'm actually on the same page as Aaron here. The Schmoes took some time off. Ellis has been knocking it out in the singles competition. Kristian's been doing more hosting than competing, and Kristian was the one that announced they would be taking a break for a while. It wasn't Ellis, it was Kristian. So I think it isn't as cut and dry as it is on paper. I think Team Patriots do have a shot to retain if they do confront the Schmoes in 2017.
I'm with you guys on the Patriots. I think the momentum's going to carry them for a while. I thought they were dead in the water in round 4 when they consulted illegally on that River Bend question. But they overcame that. And let's just talk about that final question. I mean, the way Snyder explained it, they conferred and he was going to go with a completely different answer. And then last second, he just decided to go with Robert Duvall instead of James Caan. Boom, they're the new champ. So Jeff Snyder, he is the rookie of the year as far as I'm concerned. I don't know what you guys voted. Everybody, we got to vote for all the postseason awards. I voted Jeff Sneider. I don't know what you guys did, but this just cemented that Sneider deserves and earned Rookie of the Year.
I did not personally vote for Jeff Sneider. The person that I actually voted for did cause a little bit of controversy between me and a certain person that may or may not run the Schmoedown, so let's just leave it at that. But
had you seen this match, would your vote have changed?
That is a very good question, and I would have to say maybe. But my vote is already in, so I'll just leave it at that. Right. But I believe him. I believe Jeff when he said that. Like, you made the point about Rocha and the Abe Sapien Hellboy question. He played that up.
That's coming later.
Jeff Sneider did not play that up. That seemed like a genuine moment that he genuinely could not decide between Robert Duvall or James Caan. I believe it 100%, and just as luck would have it, there you have it.
That's why my mutual follower Jeff Sneider and I have been buddies on Twitter for quite a while, because I love the guy. I love that he's so, this is me, take it or leave it. I like that he is who he is, and he's not playing a game like Rocha is, when Rocha is not the outlaw. He's more of the guy who's sweating bullets every time a question is thrown out, every time a category is thrown out. So I was so happy for Sneider, and I absolutely believed what he said in that moment when describing the process of finding that question's answer.
Did we all know the answer to that question? Because I feel like We Own the Night is an obscure movie.
I didn't know it.
I'm an unapologetic Mark Wahlberg super fan, so I knew it immediately.
I couldn't believe that movie had been represented in the Schmoedown, so I was freaking out, yelling Robert Duvall at my TV screen, hoping that they got it right. So the fact that there's that extra story to that decision makes it even better for me. Look, I think that this... It's our favorite match. I mean, I think it's all of our favorite match here. And you know what? This kind of stole the show. I mean, for the whole thing, I feel like, even though I'm trying to look at it objectively, this could have been arguably the headliner, just because not only was it a great match, but this also had the extra fluff of the production, because it was also not just between those teams, but it was also the Four Horsemen versus the Lion's Den in a way. So you had all of that extra oomph to it that one could argue that this could have been the headliner. I know a lot of attention is obviously on the singles championship, but I walked away from this match very impressed with it, and I had the most fun with it, without a doubt. And those are sort of my final thoughts on the match.
When I look back at season 1 of the Schmoedown, I'm going to think of two matches in particular: Harloff versus Rocha and Patriots versus Top 10 at Spectacular. These are the two matches that I love more than any other match by far. So, look, in hindsight, it's easy to say, yeah, this could have been the headliner, but I mean, so much of the season was devoted towards singles play before tag team matches were even a thing. So Ellis versus Merle, regardless of the outcome as we know it, that still had to be treated as the headliner. But I see what you're saying. More importantly, in the post-interview, SPR, she hasn't been around as often lately, much to my chagrin. I've got a lot of issues with that for a lot of reasons. However, I feel like she was not aware that Finstock became the manager of the Lion's Den that included JTE and Sneider, because he was trying to involve himself in the interview. She kept pushing him out, and he had to clarify, I'm the manager. She said, what you don't have any, you're not part of this team. You don't belong here. And he had to clarify, I am the manager. So I feel like Sasha was not aware of his standing. It's no fault of her own because she hasn't been around. But again, weird moment there, plus the fact that they have both been taking shots at each other through their various shows for several weeks now. So I think there's genuine bad blood between the two. He called her Sasha Grain of Sand Raver recently. I think that was on your episode. Yeah, you guys did the interview with him where he took shots at her. So, Aaron, let me ask you, do you think there is genuine bad blood between Sasha and Tom Dagnino / Finstock, because she made sure to clarify that her feelings were applied towards both?
I think every good rivalry, whether real or not, has to have at least a tinge of truth in it to make it captivating. I think there's absolutely bad blood between these two.
Yeah.
Maybe not to the point where it's fisticuffs and screaming, but there's probably a definite uneasiness between the two for sure.
I mean, she has not been around for this to be this long-running thing. The fact that she's barely been around lately, and yet she has such an issue with him, that's why I believe it's real, because in limited appearances, he took shots at her, she took shots at him, and it kind of just collided. And that was a very underrated moment, I think, of this whole event, was Sasha and Finstock kind of confronting each other after many weeks of Smack Talk.
Paul, how did you take that after the match, the post-match interviews?
Absolutely. I actually have here on, I apologize for using notes. I know you guys are not like that, but I do take notes on this. And it says, thank you, Sasha, for that, because Finstock was trying to get involved in the post-match interview. And yes, he is the manager, but she has a job to interview the team. And she was trying to interview the team. And when she was saying that you're not a part of this team, I think she was referencing the two people that actually competed. So she was trying to get an interview with the competition and the competitors, and not the manager. And Finstock, being the heel manager, interjected, and that's what they do best. And I actually really do like Finstock in this role. He's going to shine as this manager. So I saw these two fighting each other way back when Sasha, I think, challenged Finstock after beating Carol Warner. And so since that point,
he interrupted their match. He interrupted Sasha's interview then.
There you go. And so they, for since then, have been at it. And honestly, the only way this could even end is a potential Finstock versus Sasha match, and maybe it's a loser leaves town or loser retires from the Schmoedown or whatever. I don't know what it could be, but I mean, I actually, it just adds the tension. It's one of the in wrestling, it's that slow burn, or even in movies, it's that slow burn. We're not going to get it yet, but they're teasing it, but we're not getting it yet, and there's more interaction, and so it's building.
I just thought of something.
You did.
You just gave me an idea.
What's that?
Makuga just had that big breakup with Finstock. Makuga is a big ally of Sasha Pearl Raver. Both Makuga and Sasha would love to take on Finstock in some capacity, or Finstock's tag team duo of Team Patriots. So don't overlook the Finstock wrinkle when it comes to a potential Makuga SPR, Makuga TV Talk tag team duo versus
I've actually heard that in a lot of the comments, even David Griffin in there too. But Sasha and Makuga sounds a lot more of a more cohesive team because they have that same enemy. So I'm right there with you.
But as I said earlier, though, Finstock, now that he's not a competitor, his only chance to get screen time is during the post interviews, is during the sideshows, if you will. So of course he's going to take offense to not getting a chance to speak on behalf of his team, because that is his only role that's left, is to have those moments of entertainment. So I love what Sasha did, and this just proves that she is the best female co-host, best sideline reporter that they have.
100%.
And once he removes his lips from her ass, I wanted to point out, maybe if Emma was the interviewer, I think Finstock maybe would have talked a little bit more. Even with, I wouldn't even know Makuga, if he was even there, the interview would even happen. It would have been him just walking off. But if Emma was there doing the interview, I have a feeling Finstock would have talked a whole lot more than he actually did with Sasha.
Makuga was not present at all for the Spectacular,
right,
which I found
know that.
interesting.
Yeah. Yep.
So
I found that interesting as well. I kind of like you guys had said, I kind of missed a Makuga presence, but
yeah.
There you have it.
I agree that I was just kind of laughing. Finstock can do anything, and I'm going to laugh at it. But I'm sort of with Paul on this, that I think that Sasha was just giving him a hard time because he did nothing. And even though I'm going to laugh at him for doing it, he's going to take a lot of credit for the things that the Lions Den or the Patriots do in the future. It's always going to make me laugh, but I think Sasha was sort of the voice of reason, exclaiming, "You did nothing." So
you're missing the point, though. Was she even aware of what his newfound role was within the Schmoedown?
I don't think there's
even
any way
aware
that didn't know
that he's a spokesman / manager for them.
That they're around each other so much.
They're not around each other. They're not around each other at all. They barely see each other. She's barely there anymore.
I'm not talking about them personally. I'm talking about the Schmoedown is being talked about every day over there in that studio. And
she's not barely there anymore.
How do you know that? How do you know that she's never there anymore? Just curious.
Because she's not on. She's on the main show once a month on average.
But she's still in tune.
Do you know
with what's
that she's
going
not
on.
behind the scenes at all? Do you know that for a fact? You don't know that.
I do know that.
You know that
Because
she's not there
she's
behind
there
the
for
scenes.
she's there for TV Talk on Monday. She's there at the end of each month for one main live show. I would not be surprised if she was not aware of the fact that Finstock is now this manager, and that moment played natural because she just wasn't aware of what he was actually doing there.
I highly doubt.
Maybe she thought this was just another interruption by Finstock because he likes to interrupt, including her match with Kara. He interrupted their post-interview. So maybe in her mind, she thought it was another one of those classic Finstock interruptions, and she didn't realize that he was their spokesman / manager now.
I highly doubt Kristian has not mentioned that to her at all. I have a feeling that was just part of the shtick, and that was a part. And then she just fended it off like she normally has. There's no possible way that she's oblivious to that. The fact
Kristian's had one show with Sasha since August, so don't act like they are.
And you really don't think they've talked at all since then.
Don't act like they have some close relationship when they've barely been on screen together other than one time since August. So she's not around. She's got other stuff, other gigs. She's not keeping tabs on every latest development in the Schmoedown. She's not listening to our shows. She's not living and breathing this stuff. She's got a life that exists beyond what we do here. So it's an interesting discussion, obviously. It's causing an argument, but I would not be surprised. I don't know why you guys are arguing with me about this. I would not be surprised if she was not aware of his newfound status as the manager. Therefore, she was dismissing him naturally. If it was kayfabe, great. But I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't.
I'm actually going to take your side, Brian.
Hey, thanks, Aaron.
I'm going to take your side. I think the telling point is, and I've gone back and I watched the interview a couple times. If you notice when Finstock is trying to get in there, Sasha's she's just brushing him off. She's not like saying, she just will like keep moving the microphone. She's like, no, don't talk. Like, let's just do this. Like, let's get this over with. Almost like there was going to be different takes because he was getting in the way. So that kind of leads me to believe that she may not have known. And like you said, she's got other gigs. She's doing the Screen Junkies news bit. She's doing that whole thing. She's busy, and it wouldn't surprise me if she wasn't in on it, but it also wouldn't surprise me if it was also a work.
She doesn't read the comments. She is not in tune with what's going on. She doesn't read the comments. She's not living on every development that happens at the studio. And just look at Dagnino during all this. He's getting genuinely frustrated by the fact that he cannot deliver what he's there to deliver, which is his shtick. That's all he's there to do now since he's not a competitor.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That you can see the frustration in his face. He even like pulls on his beard mask a little bit in frustration. So I see what you're saying.
Well, has JTE earned his redemption arc? That was a question that was asked. Has JTE been redeemed after a terrible season 1 of the Schmoedown? Snelling?
I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no. I feel like that this is a team. I mean, this is a team. He's not the only one there. This is a team effort. Snyder, I think, carries him. We've already made that point. There's more at play than just JTE. Yes, I'm happy for him. I know that he's happy. He has a right to be happy. But as far as like crossing him out and making him again, a great contender in the league, no, I'm not there yet. I'm not convinced. So I still need to see more from him. I'm happy for him, but
Paul, is JTE redeemed to some degree in your mind?
Yes, absolutely. In this team, like I said, Jeff Snyder has definitely become his saving grace, and this has redeemed him to hold the gold finally after an abysmal singles career this season. So I definitely agree that he's got some redemption.
Aaron.
Absolutely, I think JT is redeemed. You can lose 7 games in an NFL season, and as long as you win the Super Bowl, you're still the champ. So as long as JT is still the champ, he's redeemed in my eyes.
Oh my God, I hate that so much.
The champ is here, Snelling. The champ is here.
I like the cut of your jib, Aaron.
Hey.
I get your point, but I don't think it was enough of JTE himself, like, doing it. So
can I put it to a reference that you will understand and love?
Yeah, I'm curious. What's this going to be?
Okay, so if your beloved Kentucky Wildcats get into the March Madness tournament as, God forbid, a 4 seed, yet they run the table, even though they've lost games and they're not the number 1 seed, but they're still the champ. They're still the champ, right?
Wait, say that again. You're saying that they enter the tournament as a 4 seed but end up winning the championship?
Yeah, so if they win the championship, no matter how they got there, they're still the champ.
Yeah, but the Kentucky Wildcats in this scenario probably did not fall as hard as JTE did. JTE has farther to climb. Now, if you had said the Kentucky Wildcats entered the tournament as like a 16 seed, then I might get on board with your analogy. But
okay, fine, fair enough.
Yeah. The Wildcats have not in years gone as low as JT has in his Schmoedown career, to be fair.
Have we talked about the Roger Moore, Sean Connery screw up by Rocha? Uncharacteristic mistake.
No.
That was trash.
So,
I could not believe it.
I mean, Nost was the big difference maker on that team, but I mean, Rocha had some questions that he should have answered too, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where Team Top 10 goes, given the struggles of Matt and Nost, but I don't know where they go next, quite honestly, but I'm excited about Team Patriots, highlight of the event for me.
And if I may, to put a bow on this, just received a word from Kristian Harloff to clear up our little Sasha Finstock debate. I said, did Sasha know that the manager of the Patriots was Finstock in the post-match interview? And he writes, she knew, she just hates him.
I just DM'd him during this match too, and he said the exact opposite, in that she just hates him. So I guess we're going to have to go to the cards once again.
That clever Harloff. Can I just bring up one more thing? I know you said you were putting a bow on it, Paul, but I'm going to have to untie the bow for just a hot second. Did you notice that Rocha in the post-match interview was demanding a rematch clause be added to the champions so that Team Top 10, because the match was so quote-unquote close, that they would get an automatic rematch? Did you guys pay attention to that at all?
Yeah, I was DMing Kristian.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Snyder in a way. Like, I think they won fair and square. There's no doubt about it. The Patriots deserve the win, but I don't know. I don't think it's that easy. I don't think it should be that easy for them to get a rematch. This is not like the Star Wars. I'm not saying in the future they can't meet back up again, but I'm just saying to automatically get a rematch, I don't think it's that easy. I think that they should play a little bit more. And plus, honestly, I don't even know how well they would even do. Like, if the rematch was tomorrow, the way that Nost is acting and how he's taken this loss, I don't know if they would even be ready for a rematch immediately.
Good point.
Oh. Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know why he thinks this is the WWE and there's an automatic rematch clause in the contract. I mean, there is no contract. This is movie trivia. So, I mean, they lost. They get them back of the line. I mean, obviously, the next up if you look at the rankings, is the Schmoes, really. I mean, they were technically number 2, I believe. So they are technically the first ones to get the shot. So I mean,
which I have a problem with.
That's fine, and I they've got to earn it too. I kind of agree with that. Maybe 2 versus a 3 for the next one. Who knows? I'm not sure what's going on with that one, but I do think they need to go to back of the line. Somebody else has to take the shot. Tough beats, maybe not Wolves of Steel, but maybe down the line. But I think it's time for a new matchup, and top 10 has to go to the back of the line.
And at the same time, I don't want this to start a trend where, like, every single match there has to be a rematch if they feel that. So, because we want all of the other teams to get to play as well.
Yep.
So I don't want, even if it's like a couple of weeks difference between them, I want to see all those other teams come in and get their shot. And maybe it's time for another team to go after the belt. I don't want to see a lot of flip-flopping. So I hope that that's not the case. I am with Snyder on this. Let another team have a chance, or let top 10 earn that position once again.
Well, whenever there's a rematch anyway, like a Makuga Harloff 2 or Makuga Wolf 2, it's kind of like a happy accident. So as long as it keeps on that trajectory, like you're saying, and doesn't, like, let's not be monotonous about it, that's fine. Like, once it happens, it just, it's in a tournament, it just kind of happened. That's fine. But I'm with you. Let's not keep doing it.
Definitely. All right, so let's call this final thoughts. We've talked about this match for forever. Are we ready to move on to Rocha versus Riley?
I'm good.
All right, let's do it. So, Paul Wolf, what did you think about this match? Because, after all the carrying on that Rocha has done throughout the Spectacular up to this point, I thought for this match he was quite subdued. And I don't know if he just needed a Monster energy drink, or I don't know what was going on, but he seemed to kind of calm down a little bit and take this match a little bit more seriously, having just lost. What did you think about it?
Exactly. That's exactly why I felt you saw a more subdued Rocha, and you saw maybe even a more focused Rocha. And I know you had said earlier that the previous tag team championship match was everybody's favorite. That you don't speak for me. This Riley versus Rocha, to me was my favorite, especially round 2, because of everything that went on with everybody. Like Riley getting 7 points with the spinner's choice, and Rocha getting Oscars, and both getting 7 points to 8 points. I mean, it was awesome, and loving the fact that Riley came in there with a new entrance. I thought that was cool, and threw everybody for a loop coming out to James Bond, and again with. You'll probably hear from Brian later on with Natasha coming out again with Rocha, and then just again going through, and finally, maybe this was my favorite because finally the first question in round 1 for both were animated, and they both got it. Maybe that's the reason why. Just underlying issue there for me, of course, but. I thoroughly enjoyed this because, again, it felt like it was almost Rocha's redemption because he finally, the wind was out of his sails. The confidence was shaken, and he didn't want to go 0-2 in this Spectacular. So they were back and forth. They were fighting each other, and I thoroughly enjoyed watching this matchup and it coming down to that final question with Riley. I mean, that's the kind of matchups I'd love to see, is the kind where it comes down to that last question and they have to hit it or the other person wins. And I thoroughly enjoyed the redemption story in just a couple of minutes. You saw Rocha going from the very bottom, losing some titles, to finally getting that #1 contender spot.
Yeah, it's funny how obviously he won this match 19-16, but at the very beginning, the first thing out of his mouth when he was asked his first question, he made a joke that he forfeited the match. But you're absolutely right. Round 2 was fantastic. Both of them were flawless in that entire round, if my notes are correct. Aaron, what did you think of this match?
I thought for a second I was going to be really disappointed in Mark Riley's entrance because I for the longest time, ever since Mark Riley kind of got on this skid, I wanted him to come out, because he does the Superman shirt and all that kind of good stuff. I wanted him to wear the black Superman shirt, like kind of like a rebirth.
Yeah.
He didn't do it, and that's fine because we got an even better entrance of the Superman, then cuts out into the James Bond entrance. I thought that was phenomenal. And then Rocha comes out wearing a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson t-shirt. That's fine. But overall, the overall match, I mean, when Riley spun Star Wars, or spun Spinner's Choice and picked Star Wars, I was with the crowd. I was like, oh my god, yes, this is awesome. This is going to be great. And of course, he got them all. And then Rocha spinning Oscars. I knew that Rocha was going to be strong in that category, and he was. And it was just like their last match. It was a great heavyweight fight, Titanic showdown. I liked it a lot.
Brian, what'd you think?
It was a heartbreaker for Mark Riley, man. He's been on a skid, like Aaron said, and lately, maybe it's been something that's been the case for a while, but he has struggled in round ones for quite a while, it seems. So it was really important that he get off to a fast start, and he did. He was up 5-2 at the end of round one. He missed the easy Famke Janssen question in regards to Taken. Obviously, when he got Star Wars, I mean, it just seemed like this was his match to lose, and you can never count out Rocha, obviously, even when he acts like he's just drawn his worst category possible. But it's just frustrating, in the most pivotal moments. Someone gets a recent Ben Stiller movie as their 5-pointer, and Riley gets Jungle Fever, which it's the luck of the draw. That's part of the Schmoedown, but. Mark Riley, I felt like he was due just as much as Rocha was due. They both badly needed a win, and it's just a shame that it just didn't go Mark Riley's way, because he played as well as you can play, and it still resulted in a loss. So it was a tough match, any which way it crumbled. So it went to Rocha.
Oh, sorry, Aaron. I thought you were about to say something. But this was the match that you referenced it earlier. This had that Hellboy question that you had a problem with too, right?
Yeah, the commenters are going crazy. Nobody believes that he did not know this already. He hemmed and hawed and made a big production out of it. I think he knew it. He overreacts to everything that comes his way, even just a category, even just a question. So whether he actually played it up, only he knows, but he has the tendencies to do that in the past, and so I wouldn't be surprised if he did. But it's to give Rocha a ton of credit, though. I mean, he promised to get to that belt, and he is closer than ever, and I have to applaud him for his journey. He promised to beat Mark Ellis too. I mean,
but
it is what it is.
That's not what's gonna happen eventually, it looks like, but of course, and we'll get to that here in a minute, but I have to give him a ton of credit, because his journey to the belt has been pretty impressive. Something that I wanted to ask you about, and I don't know if you caught this, and forgive me if I'm talking out of turn, because I have it on my notes on this page, but I can't remember if this happened before the match or after the match. There's a moment where, okay, this was definitely before the match, I'm now remembering it, but I forgot to bring it up earlier. Did you happen to catch the vignette or the kayfabe of Riley in the back room on the dry erase board?
Yeah, I paused it, and I read all those things on the board as they're planning out. Again, that is the writer's room where Ken and Riley do most of their damage. So you could see them planning out, various crash courses and whatnot. So I was looking for clues.
Aaron and Paul, did you happen to catch the dry erase board in the back room?
I caught it, but I didn't look too much into it. I just kind of thought it was a funny bit.
Yeah, I didn't.
By the way, Aaron, he was wearing a black Superman jacket in that vignette or promo.
I did catch that, and not only was he wearing the black Superman jacket, he was also wearing the black Wolves of Steel shirt. Right. So I was assuming that's what he was going to come out with, and I would have been fine with that. But like the James Bond thing was fine. But go ahead, Paul. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. No, I actually am the same with Aaron. I saw him do it, draw the stick figure, the hangman, and that was it. I didn't actually pause it and look too in depth within the writings of it. So, what did you uncover?
Yeah, what did you get? I'm curious.
No, there was nothing that was a huge takeaway. I just saw what they had theorized for potential crash courses. They had a ton of Star Wars stuff listed. That was something that we talked about.
Disappointing. I thought you were going to come up with a scoop. Damn it.
Yeah,
no. I thought Snelling had a scoop. I thought Snelling made it sound like he had this big identification there, but again, he's the one that brought this moment up. So Snelling, you're the one to blame for this disappointing moment. However, I thought for a while, as have other people, that Mark Riley was going to turn heel. You guys have talked about it on your show before, that Mark Riley was going to turn heel at Spectacular, and that the black Superman shirt, costume, whatever, would be the way he would kind of represent or symbolize that, signify that. So was that why you wanted to see the black Superman shirt, Aaron? Because you've wanted to see him turn heel for a while? Is that part of the wish fulfillment?
I have begged Kristian to turn Mark Riley heel. I said, please. I said, please, it will be, it'll work so well. He's got to turn heel. I thought it was just going to happen naturally, and Kristian told me many times, probably too many times, that Riley is the consummate face, that nobody would buy Riley as a bad guy. And to a point, I can see that. But what better way to not... I mean, let me just pose this to everybody. If Mark Riley turned around and turned heel on everybody, would you see that coming?
I could buy it. I wouldn't see it coming, but I could buy it.
Yeah. Snelly, what about you? Would that drop your jaw if all of a sudden Mark Riley just became a total dick?
I agree with Brian. I would buy it, and I would actually really, really enjoy it.
See? What about you, Paul?
You got three of you right there agreeing with Brian there. I agree. I buy it.
Would you rather buy it or would you rather sell it?
I need an explanation. I don't get it.
I'm going to DM Kristian about this and see what he says.
Oh, good Lord.
Well, let us know what happens. Do we have any final thoughts on this match?
I want to talk about one more thing, and it's in regards to commentary. Was anybody surprised? Because, I mean, I was, and this is just kind of a nitpicky thing, that Campia was the co-host as Ellis went to prepare for his match. I assumed it would be Ken Knapsack, because Ken and Kristian had been doing so many of these together while Mark was away. But I guess it turns out that Ken was out of town, and that's why Campia filled in. I know it's kind of a nitpicky deal, but were you guys expecting Campia to come back out and do some commentary?
I would have preferred Ken.
Me too.
But we got Campia. So Ken was probably doing cinematic combat somewhere else, perhaps.
Could have been.
Who knows when they recorded this? But I think this was recorded recently based on the haircuts, and this had a more recent vibe than I expected it to have. I thought they would piece this together over a couple months, perhaps, but this seemed to be a bit more recent than I ever expected it to be.
What was Kristian's tan level? I didn't check his tan level.
Well, those wash off after about 5 days. The spray tans.
Good point.
Snelling told me that, at least.
I think it's pre Rogue One premiere.
Okay.
But not just because of the tan.
Well, Ellis's hair was way longer pre-Rogue One. I mean, Ellis, before the Rogue One week haircut, his hair was looking super shaggy. So it's obviously after they got the new equipment in the middle of November.
Right. Yeah, I
So
don't think
there's
I don't even think there's
period.
any way. There's no way that they would have filmed the Spectacular if they knew that equipment was coming. So it's definitely absolutely within that window, without a doubt.
But Ellis's hair, I mean, his hair was too long before Rogue One, before he got it cut the week of Rogue One. So it's hard to piece it together. But either which way, fantastic production overall. And what were we just discussing? I forgot the point altogether. What was the point?
It was just me ranting about the commentary. That's all.
Yeah, I would have preferred Ken. You're right. And I think this is more prevalent in the championship match, which we'll get to in a minute. But so I'll expand further on what I mean by that.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Paul, do you have any thoughts on that or final thoughts at all on the match?
No, not at all.
Aaron, is that it?
That's all I got. Just wanted to bring that up.
Cool. All right. Well, let's.
Sorry. 1 second. I know you just tried to wrap that up smoothly, but even for Star Wars, Riley got some very difficult questions. Order 66, Kipster. I mean, these were not gimme Star Wars questions. These were tough. So, Riley, I feel so bad for the guy. He did everything possible to win, and yet that 5-pointer just did not swing his way.
That's true. Did Kristian call Riley Steve Carell?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Did I miss something? Where did that come from?
I mean, he kind of did look like Steve Carell a little bit. I could see it in the suit.
Maybe.
He kind of like it knocked up when he was on the red carpet. I could see that.
If Kristian thinks Riley looks like Steve Carell, then Kristian definitely looks like Dane Cook.
Toby
Easily.
Kebbell.
Toby Kebbell.
Toby Kebbell in Black Mirror.
Dave Mirra.
Black Mirror. Toby Kebbell looks more like Kristian than Dane Cook in 2016.
Oh yes, one of the best episodes of Black Mirror. Toby Kebbell.
Absolutely.
That blows my mind. If I watched that show, maybe I would understand.
You haven't seen the show, I take it?
I've seen a couple episodes.
But you haven't seen the episode.
Did you start with the first season, episode 1 first?
Yes, and I quit giving a shit very quickly.
Yeah, you gotta skip that episode first.
Let's end this on the headliner, the championship, singles championship between Dan Murrell and Mark Ellis. We have been waiting a long time for this. I was appreciating all the fun that these two had been having. I think the most recent thing I saw was Ellis eating baby carrots, and his mom was asking him movie trivia questions on Instagram. It came down to this, ladies and gentlemen. This was the last, I guess it's going to be the last match of the year. Paul Wolf, was it worth it? Was this championship match worth it?
It was a culmination of the entire season. I completely believe this was worth every minute. I mean, I cannot see at this point. Anybody that could potentially beat Murrell. I really don't. Even after what Ellis did across the board, I mean, Murrell only missed one question.
One question.
That was it. One. I mean, I don't see how this is. I mean, who is gonna take Dan Murrell? It is just insane to see, even with
Bill
what
Bibiani?
Ellis was doing. You know, we'll get there when we get there, I guess. But I don't know. I really don't. At this point, I mean, I predicted Murrell winning, but I could not believe what I saw, and it exactly encapsulates everything that we saw being, again, the last question. And even in that last round, everybody getting the 1s, the 3s, and the 5s, but it still came down to that final question, and it was just an amazing ending to an amazing season.
Bibiani, I feel like I need to see more from before. I'm not saying he can do it, but before I make that decision, I need to see more from him. Aaron, what did you think? What was your reaction?
My first reaction was, I want to know the temperature of the studio to make Mark want to dress in a Santa suit, because that guy had to be burning up. My goodness. I mean, the match was fantastic, no doubt about it. I think in round 2, I knew it was not going to go Mark Ellis's way on one question. That was the question in The Dark Knight, what is the name of Batman's motorcycle? Mm-hmm. When he said Batpod, which nobody... okay, well, I shouldn't say nobody, but 90% of the people that you would ask that question to, they would call it the Batcycle, and it would be wrong. And he nailed...
I knew it. I thought it was easy.
I knew it too. That was easy for me too. Absolutely.
Well, there goes my theory. But anyway,
if Paul knew it, it's definitely easy.
When he said,
I'm sorry, Brian. What was that? What was that, Brian?
You're welcome for the ratings.
When he said,
what does that mean?
I'm listening to Aaron.
when he said Bat Pod, I was like, oh, this is over. This is over, because I feel like a lot of people do not know what that is. And then it just from there, I mean, even Ellis, when he got Brad Pitt off of when Merle picked it for him for opponent's choice, he got him all right.
Decided it alone.
You're exactly right. And Ellis was trudging through. He got 6 points out of that, got all the Brad Pitt questions. It just wasn't enough. I felt bad for the guy. I thought it was a great match, and I echo Paul. It was a great way to end the year.
Here's the thing about Merle is that he not only has the skill and the knowledge, but he gets those lucky bounces to go his way. So he's just unbeatable so far because everything goes his way, on top of having just a breadth of knowledge that is higher than anybody else. So the wheel alone, the wheel just helped him out in every which way possible. The fact that Ellis kept it close, despite the way the wheel was spun, is a miracle in itself. So
Jesus Christ!
Even though Dan Merle is the champion, I still voted for Mark Ellis as Player of the Year because he went further than anyone ever would have imagined, and he just played unbelievable trivia. And so, yeah, Merle is the champion, but Mark Ellis did things that nobody expected, so that's why he's my Player of the Year.
And how many matches have we seen from Merle this year? Is that his third?
I believe this would be his. He beat Clark Wolf, he beat Campia, he beat Scott Mance, and now Ellis. So that would be
this is his fourth. Okay,
and Mark Riley. So that would be 5.
Oh, really? I feel like we haven't seen him as much. I was just gonna say I feel like we've seen a lot more of Ellis. So
we haven't seen him in a while. He didn't play in the tournament. So
yeah, the Ultimate Schmoedown tournament, him not playing in that
Yeah, that's okay. Well, there goes my point. I'm with you there, Aaron.
But Aaron, who is your Player of the Year? I mean, yeah, it's easy to name the champion the Player of the Year, but Ellis, given what he's done, isn't there a major case for him to be Player of the Year?
I will tell you my vote for Player of the Year, and it absolutely was Mark Ellis, and I'll tell you why.
We agree again.
Hey, how about that? Mark Ellis is a guy that, despite, if it wasn't for some kind of JTE trial, Mark Ellis would be undefeated. And not only has Mark Ellis, he tore through that tournament. Mark Ellis was hardly ever in danger in that tournament, even against Rocha. So why would I pick anybody else? As great as Merle has been, I would say that his competition has been a little bit lesser of John Campia, Clark Wolf at the time that was up and coming. Clark's obviously a strong competitor now. He beat Mark Riley, of course, but Ellis has been on a tear, and if it hadn't been for that one hiccup, Ellis would have been hands down the favorite to win this match, in my opinion, and he is my Player of the Year for sure.
It really sucks that Ellis was pretty much down the entire time, though. And Kristian asked me what I thought of this match. My heart, even though I really enjoyed that tag match, the team match, my heart was in this one the most because I really, really needed Ellis to win this. Like, that would have been just the cherry on top to Ellis bringing the belt back to Collider, and it got me in my gut when he did not. I didn't really ever feel confident because he was down the entire time. He could have made an incredible comeback, but for the longest time I just didn't feel good about it, and I hate that for him because I agree he was also my choice for Player of the Year. I just hate it for him so much. But do you all agree? I mean, was your heart in this match the most, even though this might not have been your favorite?
I would say that my heart was more so in the tag team match. Now, I'm a fan of both Merle and Ellis, but I think the JTE story was captivating me, and after talking to Jeff Snyder and kind of a little bit of personal bit, I was more vested into them than I was the championship match, but it doesn't take away from how great the match was. It's just the tag match had me a little bit more.
Definitely. Paul, do you have any other thoughts on the match?
No, I just kind of agree with what Aaron had mentioned, is the fact that I was more invested. I was more invested in that tag match, but seeing this one, I had I had Merle winning, being at the last question, Ellis being up before hitting that 5. Merle had hit that 5 to win, and he did. And so I really did. It was hard for me to pick Merle to win because I do want to see the belt come back to Collider. So hopefully in 2017 we do see that happen. But Dan Merle is tough. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's next.
Definitely. Brian, did it drive you nuts that Campia actually called Sasha Natasha? How dare he?
That was hilarious. Natasha. Granted, she had the mask on, but I DM'd Kristian about that, and he told me some other info about that was just made it even more funny. But there was a great moment in the introduction where Kristian is introducing the match before he handed it off. Campia is sitting there, and he's just looking like a doting dad. There's that word again. He's just sitting there looking so proud about how far this competition and this show has come. So I encourage everyone to go back, and you can just see how proud John Campia is of... I mean, this is all part of his creation, too. This whole channel is in existence because of him. We have the Schmoedown because he helped pitch it to Complex and whatnot. So there's just this proud look on his face that I really appreciated. And I don't know that Kristian had to hand off the announcing duties, but we know how the commenters are. They'll pull on any thread that they can. But I think a major reason why this match didn't feel as electric to me as the tag team championship or the tag team match with JTE and company was because Campia and Clark didn't really have that chemistry on the mic. They didn't really have their timing. So it just seemed like they were kind of trying to feel each other out. And so that did not have the same energy that moments like the tag team match had. So it was still a great match, don't get me wrong, but I don't think I ever felt like Merle was in danger. You never feel like Merle is in danger no matter what Ellis did, no matter how many times Ellis got back up. Merle just has this calm, this presence to him to where he's just unfazed. Even his tough categories like sports, he got a question that related to Mighty Ducks and Emilio Estevez. And even if you're not a big sports fan, you know the Mighty Ducks films if you're around that age like I am. So I wanted Ellis to win. I still picked Merle, but I was hoping for the opposite of my pick. But Merle is just too strong until we get some more tape on Bibiani, McQueenie. Merle is going to be the champion for a bit longer, it seems. A while longer, potentially.
The final score was Merle 23, Ellis 20. Post-match, Finstock comes in and asks Dan Merle to be in the Lion's Den. And as of today, he is in the group, correct? Am I misremembering that?
That's correct.
The not only is that interesting because I never really felt like Merle was as involved as, say, like a Makuga or someone else in the entire league. That's definitely interesting. But the Lion's Den. So basically, what happened was the Lion's Den.
I'm waiting, Snelling.
The Lion's Den came in to the Spectacular, and they were a huge joke. At least for me, they were. They leave the Spectacular with 2 titles. That is something, and I think that is one of the biggest takeaways from the entire Spectacular.
Come on, you got to give me this, Ryan. Come on.
What are you talking about?
I called Merle joining Finstock the moment Finstock broke off from Makuga.
I'm not giving you anything. I mean,
give me that credit. And plus, when JTE joined on, when JTE joined on, and they reunited, basically, that was just icing on the cake because JTE has the SJ connection. He's got Merle to deal with every single day, and so it makes sense that the Android would join on top of that because the Android is at that channel a lot too. So I wasn't surprised to see him join either. So with the exception of Finstock and Snyder, that is a team junkie for a lot of reasons. But I don't even think it was called the Lion's Den until this episode. Aaron, was it called the Lion's Den before this episode?
Not that I know of. I believe the previous There may have been a different name for the group at some point earlier on in the show. I don't remember what it was called, but yeah, Lions Den kept getting referenced. I was like, oh, I guess they're the Lions Den now. But
I don't think we've heard it until this episode.
A simple equation for this, what's going on here, is a couple weeks ago we had Finstock equals ratings, and now we have Finstock equals championships. And I've even spoken with Finstock this evening, and I said, I guess Finstock now equals championships, and he said, you're damn right. So there you go. There you have it from the man himself.
Unless you all have any final thoughts on this match in particular, I figured we'd just conclude with our thoughts on the Spectacular. Is everyone good with that?
Good to go, man.
All right, so one of my biggest takeaways again was my reaction to the Lions Den coming in as a joke, coming out victorious. Paul, just speak to the Spectacular in general. What's your biggest takeaway after watching that 3.5 hours of goodness?
Just a overall greatly produced, entertaining, episodic even. It felt like an old wrestling episode. It felt like a WrestleMania. The backstage elements, the factions being formed, shockingly enough, with some of them, and just coming away with, wanting more and wanting to see where it goes from here, and seeing if we're going to see any face faction teams come out, and just to see the combinations of what matchups are coming soon and what they have in store. It all led me to just want more.
Aaron?
I think something like this, as highly as it has been touted and as long as it has been touted, is so hard to live up to the hype. It's like, it's spectacular. It's going to be the biggest movie trivia event of all time. And when you say something like that, you have to back it up. And man, my hat's off to everybody from top to bottom. Competitors, Kristian, Mark, RB3, all the editors, everybody. They did it, man. And it's every single match had one, if nothing else, it had one moment you could take away, from Burnett and Navarro going down to the wire, to Scott Mance about having a coronary, to JTE finally getting a championship, to Dan Murrell establishing dominance, to the Outlaw finally getting his title shot. It is just, I mean, like I said, man, my hat's off. I couldn't be more thrilled with how this turned out, and I'm happy for everybody involved.
Brian?
When they kept showing all the clip packages, and we saw matches from 9 months ago, and when you see some of those clips from 9 months ago, it feels like a completely different year, and yet it was only 9 months ago. I mean, we see empty walls, we see the brick walls. Now we have gentle giant stuffed walls. We've got fireball effects every which way. The production value in 9 months alone has jumped up considerably. The game knows what it is. It knows what it wants to be. I'm so proud of Kristian for steering it in this direction. It's unbelievable, the success that it's become, and this event is really the culmination of all that. It's the epitome of all that, of everything that they put into it all year, and the best event they've ever produced. Both channels, by far. I don't know how they top this in 2017, but I know they will.
I'm going to pull Jeremy Johns and pretty much just echo everything that you all said. I mean, this is the best possible way to end the year. I am extremely proud, and like Brian, you mentioned it too. I'm just really, really proud of everything that Kristian has accomplished with this league, and I'm so happy for everyone at Collider. I mean, I haven't seen the reactions, the general reactions yet to the Spectacular, but I hope everyone is as thrilled with it as we are, and I hope that Collider and Complex, that everyone is thrilled with this, because like I said, I am ready for them to discuss another event in the summer. I'm already ready for the build-up and the anticipation for next year's Spectacular. I mean, the sky's the limit right now, and I I'm glad you mentioned that thing that Kristian said about seeing that headline in the magazine. I want that too. That's sort of my dream now, even though I'm not a part of it. That's sort of my dream for them, and I'm just, like I said, I'm riding this high, and I could not be happier. What I want now, what I want to see in 2017 is Team After Show versus Team Rundown. Kristian Harloff, the idea has been planted, the seed has been planted. Make it happen. That's it for me. I'm ready to sign off if everyone's good with that.
You can't just drop a bomb like that and just be like, well, now we're going to just sign off. So, I mean, if that's what you're saying, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what you mean. Is this kayfabe? Are you legitimately challenging this team, or like what are you trying to pull here?
I guess it's not up to me. I mean, it's not up to me. It's an idea though.
Can I sleep on John Campia's couch? Like, I mean, I don't live in California, so I don't know. Like, as long as I can get lodging, sure, whatever you want, sir.
Hey, we'll worry about all that later. You don't have to think about that right now. But yes, I'm sure you could sleep on Campia's couch.
Well, your guest room for Celebration is looking pretty grim now that you've made this challenge. Just saying.
By the way, Dan Merle, I laughed like crazy when he said, "Thanks to Kristian for putting 2 people I defeated up there on the broadcasting table."
Oh yeah.
So
yeah,
it was like his one zinger of the match, and it just made me laugh because Dan is a very meat and potatoes kind of guy. He doesn't do it with a lot of flash, but he gets it done. So I like that he he had the NMO shirt, the New Merle order, and he dished this line out. I thought it was great. So Dan Merle.
What was that stupid joke you made earlier with Merle's name in it?
Do you believe in Merlecles?
Okay, I figured that'd
Christmas Merlecles?
That'd be a perfect callback to end the show. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. This was a lot of fun. Again, a great way to end the year for us as well, because I guess that this is at least it's our last show. I don't know if you guys have any other plans next week for the rundown, the Schmoedown Rundown, excuse me. But
That's right.
I'm sorry. I've seen your post. Anyway, I guess that's it. We'll say goodbye to these people. Paul Wolf, where can the people find you online?
Well, you can find me up and down the Schmoeville Facebook page. You can also find me on Twitter at the Mr. Wolf, and you can also find me on Instagram at the Mr. Wolf 12.
Perfect. Aaron, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at ATTitanium, where I'm generally hashtagging Schmoedown things and trying to figure out what these people mean. As in the meantime,
Brian Davids, where can the people find you?
Well, I was under the impression that we were doing a best of episode next week where we run down our 5 favorite moments from this year, but Snelling apparently has other ideas. So I'm just going to thank everyone in the meantime, though. It's been a lousy year as a whole, you could say, especially with the news that we heard today about Carrie Fisher, but the last 6 months have been really incredible, and it's all due in part to the Schmoedown fans and Kristian Harloff and Josh McCouga, Ken Knapsack, Ryan Snelling, Christian Ruvalakaba. You guys have made the last 6 months really special, and I'm glad that we get to close on such a great event. And BDF331, filmschlubspodcast.com, where I talk TV and film.
Perfect. And you can find me on Twitter at WhatUpSnell and on the Sight and Sound Music, Movies, and Television podcast and YouTube channel. With that being said, I'm Ryan Snelling.
And I'm Brian Davids.
We will see you next time. Bye-bye.